Woo-wee! Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Gosh. Okay. Just do a quick checkup on my end. Make sure everything is going to go nicely. Lord willing. Yeah. That should be okay. Yeah. Yes. Hello, folks. Welcome. We are going to start in just a few here. Just a few. Let people get wrangled in. Thin out those who are going to leave early. Y'all know how it is. That's fine. They're not offending me at all. Alright, so how's everyone doing? What's shaking? Okay. So, basically, I'll give y'all a little rundown on what happened at the end of last chapter. Actually, here, we'll just go back real quickly. I'll give you all a quick peek. Oh, too far. Too far. Okay, so basically what happened at the end of this chapter was Little Pip enacted their plan. They got the black book. They went to the great and powerful hive mind Trixie. Now, Little Pip was completely unaware of the plan, given the memory orb situation. They didn't have their memories. They were unaware of what the plan was, even. And then, technically, what happened is, the plan involved a nuclear warhead. And, then the Enclave showed up. And, tried to do a little diplomacy there with the great hive mind, but clearly it didn't work out. There was chaos. Little Pip made a run for the bunker that Twilight was in before the great incident, and then shortly after the incident, you have 32 minutes to get clear. Essentially what happened then near at the end is when DJ Pone 3 was giving out a little radio broadcast, the radio station got hijacked. All the airwaves in the lands of Equestria were hijacked by the Enclave. As we can read here, greetings, citizens of the Equestrian Wasteland. This is the Grand Pegasus Enclave. We have commandeered this broadcast to deliver an important message to all ponies. Do not be afraid. We are here to save you. But in reality, that is not what is going to be happening. Alright. So, with that out of the way here, let me just jump back up here real quickly. And then here's some video. I'm going to just quickly play two videos. One is for the lulz. One of them is more serious. This video is how I interpret the ending of that last little segment with the Grand Pegasus Enclave coming to save the wasteland. And I played this at the end of the last one, but I really wanted to play it again because not only is it such a cool scene, but my god, the potential foreshadow is real. So I'm just gonna play this real quickly. Hold on, let's just... yeah. Imagine, this is what I imagine, but on a grander scale. It's wartime.
Do not interfere. Our intentions are peaceful. We are the Brotherhood of Steel.
Enclave. I'm just kidding. God. It's very concerning. It's very concerning. We are going to war in this chapter, everyone. Things are about to get real. Very spooky. I imagine this, but a lot more. I imagine a significantly larger scale of this. And then just for lulz, just for giggles, Here's a fun one.
People of the Commonwealth.
It's the Amazon drones.
Our intentions are peaceful. We are the Brotherhood of Steel.
It's Amazon. This was just funny, so I wanted to show it. The idea of that is so perfect. So, with that out, yeah, you got it here just in time. We wanted to play that real quickly. So, everybody, with that out of the way, I hope you are ready for some possibly extreme violence, cause today it looks like crud is about to go down in this 30,000 word mega chapter. So, buckle your horses, everyone. Time to get started. Shoot. Hold on. Let me kick in the ambiance. Oh, crud. Okay, let's see. Alright. There you go, everyone. Oh, hold on. Stop. Technical difficulties. Okay. Alright. So, chapter 39. This coming storm. Chapter 39. This coming storm. We all gotta go sometime. I was just hoping for something more heroic. Souls. Souls are the spirit and essence of a pony, the fundamental core of their nature and the kernel of life that exists beyond the biology of flesh and blood and mental synapses. I had seen empirical evidence of the reality of souls. Beyond that, my beliefs in an afterlife where the souls of dead ponies continued on in eternal peace, and in the transcendent souls of Celestia and Luna as goddesses who watched over us with love and pity and hope. These surpassed the foundations of knowledge and were the architecture of faith. But the two things I did know. Souls had a living power, and a soul was a hard thing to kill. There was no way I could know for sure if the Black Book had been destroyed, but if it was not, then it was either buried under rubble or fused into a crater of glass. The Black Book hadn't needed to be the conduit of some eldritch cosmic horror, or its pages filled with blasphemous magic to corrupt those close to it. It was enough that the book was the host to a wicked and twisted soul, the soul of an insane, maleficent zebra. The Black Book called out to those around it who were susceptible to its influence. Two alicorns walked into the throne room. It's like a joke. You freaking two alicorns walk up to the bartender, blah blah blah. Two alicorns walked into the throne room. One sensed the presence of the Black Book, the other did not. Calamity had not reacted to it when I had found it. My other friends had been near it as they traveled with me, but it had sunk barbed hooks into my mind even before I had retrieved it. We had encountered two alicorns who had been infected by the temptations of the Black Book without ever having seen it or opened its pages. Nightseer had been transformed by the Black Book's proximity. She had been one of those who the goddess had sent to find the book. Did her telepathy leave her especially defenseless? Had the Black Book filled the void in her mind left by the absence of the goddess? I was vulnerable to it. My weaknesses, addiction, curiosity, and the shame of having only a single spell played to its strengths. The soul of the Black Book had been particularly ancient and powerful. I had possessed the Black Book for less than 2 days and it had already begun to tempt me. Clumsily, perhaps at first. The book wasn't telepathic like the goddess. Most of the horrors in my nightmare I had provided myself. The book merely used the tools fevered night terrors gave it. And still, I did not have the strength alone to withstand its first probing attacks, to be able to stand against that influence as it continuously tried to erode you away, to hold to any part of yourself after years with the book, much less to take its twisted gifts and create something noble and good from them. That would take a level of moral endurance and fortitude almost beyond comprehension. Be unwavering. How often had those 6 ponies from the past, through the radiance of their souls, given me insights I couldn't have had myself, or allowed me to tap reserve strength? And will that I shouldn't have been able to muster. They had saved me and guided me since finding Applejack in Old Appaloosa, their influence growing with each statuette I found, but it was only after I had brought them all together that they have been able to intervene on my behalf more directly. I believe it was no coincidence that Rarity was the first to appear. My mind and soul had ever so briefly become the battleground for two warring influences, one powerful soul of evil and madness against 6 shards that shone the virtue and hope of Rarity and her 5 closest friends. The shards of the statuettes were not truly those of the Ministry Mares. I suppose were more like Rarity's soul wearing perfect disguises, but they shone with the true nature of those other ponies. They burned with the love and compassion and virtues of nobility of each of the Ministry Mares in turn. They were eternal, metaphysical images of the deepest, truest nature of these ponies, lit up like beacons fueled by shining peace of Rarity itself. Herself. After I'm done with this, we're gonna take probably a break from reading this crud. Point is, don't worry about it. Anyway, Rarity, whose magical talent had always been in the shadow of Twilight Sparkle, must have seemed like easy prey to the zebra soul within the Black Book. They had been wrong. She was one of the bearers of the elements of harmony for a reason, and when the soul images of the Ministry Mares were brought together, they brought the inner fire that fuels the elements of harmony with them. They had proven more powerful, even as mere shards, than the whole soul residing in the book, or at least powerful enough to give me the strength I needed to fend it off. If the Black Book could not stand against the gestalts of the Ministry Mare's souls when they were only shards, how could it have stood against the whole soul of Twilight Sparkle combined in unity with the 3 of the most magically powerful mares of her time? The Black Book was not telepathic, but it could sense souls around it, knowing instinctively whom it could manipulate and whom it could not. That last temptation of the book had an air of desperation to it. The zebra's soul had no way of knowing I was about to destroy its soul jar. It had been reaction to something else. The Black Book had sensed the goddess, and it had been afraid. What happens to a soul when it no longer has a body to hold it? Does it truly transcend? Does it spread out? No longer contain like the hydrogen in a balloon that has been popped, until it is no longer truly a soul indistinguishable from the environment? What are the souls trapped together in the horror that was the goddess? My goal had been to destroy the physical reality of the goddess and free the souls trapped inside to allow Twilight Sparkle, Trixie, and the others the rest they deserved and had been drained. Denied. I had not expected the goddess to try to save her children, but I had not expected the impact of the 6 memory orbs either. By showing these memories to the goddess, I had awoken something in Trixie. The goddess had become lost, and I believe part of her was able to find herself in those memories. The star orb had been created for comparison. By showing that memory to the goddess, I had acted like Rarity's mirror had for Pinkie Pie, just like I had hoped the memories of the Bloom Orb might stir whatever still remained of Twilight Sparkle. And what about my own soul? If I died here, would Celestia and Luna welcome me, or turn me away in horror and disgust? I knew what I had done, and my soul was blackened from it. I had finally taken that step off the cliff. I had sacrificed my own morality and goodness to save the Equestrian Wasteland. I was Red-Eye now. Through and through. And there would be a price for that. Y'all, stop sharing your frickin' names. That's one of the, not smartest things you could do on the internet. I'm just saying that right now. Stop telling people. Stop telling people that. Anyway. 38 minutes would have been plenty of time, but that time was never meant for me. It was the time enough for Zenith and Calamity to escape. I had been willing to forfeit my own life. 38 minutes would have been enough for the alicorns of the goddess to have scoured Maripony, found the bomb, and disarmed whatever timer Red-Eye had constructed for it, but the Balefire bomb had never been in Maripony. 38 minutes was not long enough for the alicorns to have fought their way through the maze of Hellhound Warrens and found the bomb hidden dozens of yards beneath Maripony's foundations. The Balefire bomb had gone off in subterranean detonation directly beneath us. Honestly, to be fair though, most of these are the types of things you listen to when you're going to bed. You know? Because you're not going to look at this green screen and follow along with me. How many of you are actually reading this with me versus just listening and maybe doing something else? Most people will listen to people who read stories when they're going to bed. That's or like a podcast type deal. That's why you do these. I woke in pitch darkness. I felt sick, even worse than in the days past. My body was hot, my mouth was dry, my stomach was twisted painfully, but there was nothing in it to heave. Oh, nice. My body was covered in sweat. There was a crushing weight on my lower body that brought back memories of a nightmare, being trapped under a wall, crying out while I watched Calamity and Velvet Remedy walk away. There was a hiss from the darkness below. The floor beneath me slanted away. I would have slid down into the hissing blackness, but I was pinned. My pitbuck was clicking slowly. For a few terrifying minutes, I had no idea where I was. Then I remembered the bomb, remembered running for the safe room, bucking the emergency button. I didn't recall a whole lot after that. My memories were a jumble, but I did remember feeling the almighty thwomp from somewhere underneath us. The feeling of the whole room being thrust upwards as the bomb annihilated everything above it. A brief moment of weightlessness and the rush of falling. Also, by the way, Little Pip has now reached Taint Level 2, which pretty much means radiation exposure will heal them, but it's still not healthy. It's like, it's pretty much what Steel Hooves can do, but hold the complete ghoul and jelly part. Click, 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 click. I turned on my eyes for its sparkle, wondering when I had turned it off. A dozen warnings flashed across it. The safe room had survived 2 mega spells, one almost point blank. But there was a microfracture somewhere in its protective walls and radiation was leaking in. Considering how hot it must be outside, the fact that I was still alive and the room wasn't an unbearable oven spoke amazing praise of Twilight and her ministry, but I was swiftly reaching fatal levels of exposure. Exposure is still bad, but now it's going to benefit Little Pip. It's going to slightly heal them instead of being outright bad for them. It's still going to be bad, but a little bit beneficial now. Yeah, technically, hold the cloud part of it. Technically, I'm pretty sure any ghoul gets this abilities. Little Pip's on their way to becoming a ghoul, essentially, but hold the actual, the rotting part. It's not that long. No. Anyway, I floated a rat away from my saddlebags, bracing against the horrid taste. According to my inventory sorter, the other medical supplies I had packed, several healing potions and a vial of Zenith's bleeding stopper goop, were all gone. I had been conscious before, but I had no recollection of it. Dude, that's true, that plot armor! The magic of the safe room must have prevented me from being turned to paste by the concussive force of the blast alone. Even still, with the fall I must have taken, I was lucky I didn't break my neck. Or anything else. According to my EFS, I was remarkably unbattered for a mare who was dying. Wait, hadn't there been somebody else in here with me? Peering into the darkness, I tried to remember my EFS compass was telling me I was alone. I lifted my pip leg. Oh my god, it's called a pip leg now. That's true. It fused to her skin. She's technically on her way to becoming a ghoul. Oh my god. Dude, pip leg. I hate the idea of a pip leg. And turned on the light. Oh, merciful goddess. My pip buck light shone down a room tilted at an insane angle. The terminal bank had torn from the wall, the concrete of the ceiling had collapsed in, revealing the shiny purple-tinted metal above it. A large slab of concrete lay across me, pinning me in place. Below, the lower third of the room was filled with discolored water, rubble, and the mangled filing cabinet. A small spray was coming from the section in the wall which had torn open. Something floated in the dark pool beneath me. It was more spacious coffin than the healing booth, but I had been foolish to think this room would save me. I was trapped, locked inside, and even if I could escape, outside was instant death. I'm out of food, and the safe room's water talisman seems to have been corrupted, Twilight had said. At least I'm fairly confident that pure water isn't supposed to be that color. The water talisman was tainted. The body of once Ben Ambrosia was beneath that water. Mostly. Her body had bulged and metastasized under the taint, straining against the armor. A blob of malformed flesh had pushed out through the open visor like a tongue. That is one of the most freaking disgusting descriptions I've could have read in a long freaking time. A fleshy, grotesquely misshaped worm floated on the surface of the water. I screamed as I realized it was one of my own hind legs. After several long minutes of terror, I realized I could feel both on my hind legs. Barely able to breathe, I shifted my light, trying to look under the slab that was crushing me. Both my hind legs were there, intact and healthy, except one was the pink of exposed skin with only a light fuzz of my coat. I had lost my leg in the fall, and I had regrown it. Excuse the frickin' what? You what? You what? I had lost my leg in the fall and I had regrown it. You know what? This might be Steel Hooves level radiation exposure. Actually, no, it's not. Reminds me, no, it's not. It's like early signs of ghoul. She's becoming an early, like, state of a ghoul, pretty much. I didn't think it was possible to feel even sicker, but I did. A deep soul-aching horror filled me as I realized that I wasn't even a pony anymore. I was something else. I wanted to cry, to scream. Was I a ghoul transformed by the bomb? Or was this from my exposure to the taint? How far removed was I now from being one of the goddess's children? She's become Deadpool, yes! Yeah! Yeah! Dude. They're gonna have a bunch of comedy movies about her. At least the radiation would kill me before the room filled up enough for me to drown. Unless I was enough of a pseudo-alicorn that the radiation wouldn't kill me. I prayed that it was. Please, please, Celestia, I beg you, have mercy on me. I turned off my light. It was better not seeing. By the way, folks, did y'all hear the part about a nuke going off, or did some of that just completely fly by you? A nuke went off right underneath them. Something wrenched the safe room. Also, I don't know how the ambrosia turned into a giant powered armored blob. I feel like she should have been literally smoked to the asphalt of the building. Something wrenched the safe room. The concrete slab scraped against me as it shifted, drawing blood. The wounds were already closing as I tried to brace myself, worried that the slab might slide off. Then I felt the whole room lift, soaring into the air. Underneath them, the tainted water washed over me as the room righted itself. The misshaped flesh blob that had once been my leg washed up against me. I screamed in horror at the slimy touch of my desecrated former flesh. Desecrated. A violent grinding filled the air and the metal shutters over the windows pulled away, revealing a purple-tinted sky of clouds filled with blowing ash. The armored glass shattered, the razor-sharp shards hovering and then whisking away. My pitbuck began to click rapidly. Somewhere above, I spotted the dark silhouette of a wagon and a glowing light of green and gold. For a moment, I thought it was Pyrelite, but then I realized the glow was coming from a Pegasus. Had my friends come to rescue me? How? And at what cost? Oh, Calamity, I thought, weeping without tears, what have you done? But something was wrong. A purple glow enveloped me, a second floating the slab off my leg. I was levitated out through the obliterated window. The super alicorn, her coat a dark purple to the point of black, stared at me with glowing eyes as she casually tossed away the safe room, performing telekinesis that would have overstrained me with effortless ease. The clouds above seemed awfully close. I glanced downward. We were very, very high. Below the second crater of Splendid Valley glowed in the aftermath. With the beat of her wings, she flew up level with the wagon above us, bringing me with her. I realized at once that the wagon was not the Sky Bandit, and the glowing Pegasus was not Calamity. Ditzy Doo? Derpy! Derpy! The super irradiated ghoul grinned happily at me, a sickly golden green light emanating from her mouth and around her teeth. Oh, Derpy, clutch! Play of the game, dude. Play of the freaking game going to Derpy. The creatures of radiation do not merely heal in its presence. If they absorb enough of it, they grow stronger, more powerful. Derpy! Dude, it goes full circle! Ditzy Doo had come into Splendid Valley looking for me. She had saved me. She and Uh-oh. 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 Yikes. Rip kiddo. Anyway, the Super Alicorn set me on the front bench of the absolutely everything delivery wagon right behind Ditzy Doo. But at the glow of her magic, the purple tint vanished from the sky, traded for a sickly green. My pitbucks clicking went insane. We were high enough above the crater for the radiation levels to be merely bad, but Ditzy Doo was shedding enough radiation to make this a very short rescue. The glowing ghoul smiled and pointed back at the wagon. I turned around, looking in through a small window. Inside the wagon were crates of Rataway, the packets glowing an inviting orange. I quickly levitated several and began to drink, turning back to thank her. I stopped as my eyes caught the cutie mark of the Super Alicorn's flank, a large pink star surrounded by a smaller white one. I'm sorry, wait, is the Super Alicorn a different character, or is that Derpy? The Super Alicorn was silent and passive, her gaze seemed fixed on my satellite. It's a different character, it's gotta be. I was struck by a flash of insight. The goddess sent her children away, but she was telepathic, maintaining contact with them. When her body was destroyed and the souls of the countless ponies who had been consumed in her were set free, some of them, the strongest ones, found their way into the bodies of her fleeing children. Possession. But those bodies already had souls of their own. It was unlikely this could last. Already, the cutie mark on the Super Alicorn was beginning to fade. Different character, definitely a different character. I scrambled if this was Twilight Sparkle in any way. There was something she needed to hear. I turned up the volume on my ear bloom and levitated towards her as I found the file. The voice of Pinkie Pie, tinny and distorted, cracked through the air. Hi, Twilight. It's me. I mean, I have you with me now, so you'll kinda be with me anyway. But it's not the same. I want the real Twilight Sparkle. I want my friend back. Please? I'll do anything. The Super Alicorn had hovered, seeming transfixed by the sound until the message ended. Then wordlessly, she turned and began to fly away. The cutie mark on her flank was already completely gone. Twilight, wait, I cried out after the disappearing Alicorn. Star Sparkle is still alive and Spike! But whatever part of Twilight Sparkle my words might once have been able to reach were gone now, evaporated, or if my heart could hope, just asleep. I wanted to cry, but my body couldn't produce tears. I drank another of those horrid Rataways as Ditzy Doo turned and began flying us out of Splendid Valley. Dude, Derpy needs some straight up PowerPoints, dude. I wonder what level Derpy is in the Wasteland, honestly. Ditzy Doo brought the wagon low as we reached the edge of the valley. We began flying along the border, moving more slowly. We were searching for something. I wanted to ask what, but Ditzy Doo couldn't speak. What did you do? What did you do? The voice of Ambrosia flooded through my mind. I fought to remember. What did you do was the last thing Ambrosia said to Little Pip right before Little Pip closed the bunker shutter or the door. Right on them, leaving Ambrosia to become a giant meatball blob of power armor. The voice of Ambrosia flooded through my mind. I fought to remember. I told her about the bomb. I was sure about that. I couldn't recall exactly what I said, but in an antsy mare, all Little Pip said, by the way, was bomb. Like, just yelled bomb, bomb, bomb. But an antsy mare with a magical energy battle saddle didn't exactly engender a desire to lie. Her response had been to try to call Harbinger through the broadcaster built into her helmet. This room is designed to stop mega spells. I recalled telling her, your radio isn't going to penetrate. She had looked at me with panic. I have to tell Harbinger. He has to get out of here. We have to pull back. Her words had sparked a burst of fear in my breast. Should really just start saying chest, honestly. I don't get it. I don't. How many ponies do you have outside? The ground passed slowly beneath us. I couldn't remember anymore. I caught them on my eyes for a sparkle, friendly lights appearing on my EFS compass before I actually spotted my friends. As we approached a clearing not far from the devastated Red-Eye camp, Steel Hooves appeared pulling camouflage netting off of the Sky Bandit. Velvet Remedy, Zenith, and Calamity emerged from within. They looked worn, weary, and bedraggled. Calamity immediately took to the air while Velvet and Zenith scanned the skies. Pyrelight was missing from the group. Where was Pyrelight? Did you find anything this time? My Pegasus friend shouted. I tried to jump up, but my body just didn't have the energy, so instead I waved. He couldn't see me anyway. Ditzy Doo was too bright. Ditzy Doo flew us in closer, pulling up and hovering at the edge of the clearing. I downed yet another rat away as she waved Calamity back. I felt weak, sick, half dead. My body was alien to me now. I wasn't me anymore. But all of that paled in comparison to the wash of joy at the impending reunion. I needed to get to Tenpony Tower, get cleansed of the taint I had suffered, assess what was left of me, and if Homage would still have me, spend it forever with her and my friends. A short forever, unfortunately. I had cleared the way for Red-Eye to ascend, and he had a host of unicorns he planned to sacrifice in the process. With the threats of the goddess and the Black Book taken care of, I now had a new quest before me, to brave the Everfree Forest and rescue those unicorns from Red-Eye's cathedral. I probably didn't have a lot of time, now that Red-Eye couldn't count on alicorns for protection anymore. He would likely act fast. But I was in no shape to fight a radroach, much less infiltrate a stronghold. My body was weeping for me to give it care and rest. I couldn't push it further until I had done so. Hey, it's Little Pip, Calamity shouted excitedly. Hey, every pony! Ditzy's brought back Little Pip! She's alive! Velvet Remedy and Zenith began to stomp in applause. Velvet gave out a thankful shout. Steel Hooves whinnied, "Thank Applejack." He turned to the others. Okay, let's get out of here. I don't like being in one place too long, especially this close to... The ground erupted. Fountains of dirt burst into the air as half a dozen hellhounds tore themselves out of the ground. Ditzy Doo pulled up as one of them swung her magical energy rifle around and fired at us. Velvet Remedy let out a scream. Calamity spun in the air, kicking the lever of his battle saddle, switching ammo. One of the hellhounds closed on Zenith, taking a swipe. The zebra ducked, turning and bucking the hellhound in the chest, dropping her. Steel Hooves began fire, his grenade machine gun tearing apart one of the hellhounds as she aimed a multi-gem magical shotgun towards Velvet and Zenith. Get to the wagon, Calamity shouted as he took a shot, staggering a hellhound who was trying to climb onto the Sky Bandit. The earth beneath Steel Hooves blasted upwards as a hellhound lashed out. Up out of the ground, the hellhound's claws slashed in a long arc, slicing through Steel Hooves' armor. You getting some memories? The world stopped. The battle still raged, but I was someplace far away. All the color and sound seemed to mute, leaving just me, the beating of my heart, and the slow rocking of Steel Hooves' head. Steel Hooves was dead. My boy Steel Hooves. My God. God dang. Dude, that was so quick and sudden. The Elder of the Outcasts killed. God, bro. What the? Oh man. Oh man. Well, let's take a moment of silence for our man. Oh, okay. Poor guy. Well, that's honestly quite a freaking bummer, bro. Oh, man. Salute. Salute 07. 07 in chat. Oh, my boy. Oh, Steel Hooves, you freaking madman. It was so quick. It was so quick and sudden and abrupt. Oh, poor guy. My brother in Christ, he's freaking dead. Steel Hooves was freaking dead. A character death. His armor couldn't save him from the plot. Yeah, man, a dude just died. Have some respect. God, yeah, thank you for the 07s. My poor man. God, how will we freaking recover from this? It doesn't help that his head rolled right over to Little Pip, like point blank right at their feet. Like, I mean, think about how traumatic that is. Dude. Steel Hooves was dead. A cold, wet chill ran down my body. There was no coming back from that. I'd seen Zenith decapitate a Cantalot zebra, but the little pony in my head was shaking in denial. No. No, she insisted. There will be an ugly, warping sound, and he'll be right back with us. Just like always. Steel Hooves was dead. I couldn't move, couldn't feel, couldn't breathe. My mind was locked up, the gears jammed. The hellhounds weren't going to give me a moment to process, much less grieve. The hellhound who killed Steel Hooves stepped forward, skewered his claws through Steel Hooves' helmet, then spun and hurled the armored head of my companion, trying to knock us out of the sky. Ditzy Doo dodged, and Steel Hooves' head slammed against her wagon next to me, splintering wood. The impact cracked his helmet's headlamp. Something snapped inside me. My horn burst with light, layer upon layer of overglow, brighter than even Ditzy Doo. The hellhounds were surrounded with light as they shot upwards into the sky, all of them, higher and higher until they were nothing but dark specks. Then they weren't visible at all. Steel Hooves' velvet scream dashing to the fallen headless body and wrapping it in her forelegs. All the others turned, eyes wide, as they realized we had lost one of our own. Thud. The ground shook as the first hellhound fell out of the sky. The mangled, broken body oozed. Thud. Thud. Thud, 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 thud. Rest in peace, my boy. Do you even know what balefire is? Another flash of memory tugged at me. As we approached New Appaloosa, we were flying low, moving quickly. Zenith stood on the Sky Bandit, watching the clouds. I got the impression we should be walking, but my condition was too severe for me to even try the journey. Ain't safe to fly no more, Calamity called out to me, flying as close as he could to the absolutely everything wagon without suffering Ditzy exposure. Damn Enclave have patrols everywhere, and anything airborne tends to catch their attention. Not that the Sky Bandit exactly has a low profile considering our cloud breach last month. We could just catch a break. Right? You sure it was Harbinger, the you saw in Mare Pony? Calamity asked as we began to slow. That's who he said he was, I called back, hating how much effort it took to shout. And they can take that trick to the frickin' heavens, am I right? R.I.P. dude. I'm partly hurt. I'm going to miss him, honestly. I'm gonna miss his like 5-worded sentences, his intimidating stature, blowing up everything, ask questions later type mentality. What a guy. From the Enclave's perspective, Red Eye had just declared war. I could see Pyrelight circling above the city, a single bird of prey. She let a hoot as the two wagons landed, Ditzy Doo setting down a little distance from the sky wagon. Pyrelight dove out of the air, disappearing into the town. Maybe he got out, I offered weakly. Not much chance of that, Calamity called back. Moment the alicorns were clear, a huge alicorn shield wrapped around Owl Mare Pony. I reckon she was trying to trap you inside with her. No pony got out. Or she was trying to contain the blast, protect her children. With a shield that powerful generated by the goddess herself, the only thing that would get out through it was her telepathy. Until the second that the bomb killed her, that was. Assuming she didn't realize that the bomb wasn't within her shield. In truth, the balefire bomb was planted far enough beneath the facility that it very well could have been outside her shield, and if she suspected that, maybe she was trying to save herself. Either way, it didn't matter. The mega spell augmented balefire had proven greater than the goddess's power. It's magical fire, I had offered, answering Ambrosia, even as I realized I really didn't know what balefire was, other than green and radioactive. It's bottled necromancy-enhanced dragon's breath, Ambrosia had told me, the magical disintegrative type of dragon's breath that can send you someplace else. In the case of balefire, probably straight to hell. Based on the possession of the super alicorn who had probably been a normal alicorn until Twilight Sparkle flew around New Crater in Splendid Valley, searching for survivors. Ambrosia's guess was almost certainly wrong, but the concept was still chilling. Something Rarity had said struck me. I even tried to have Spike burn it. All that did was send it to Princess Celestia. I remember thinking of Spike roasting an Enclave pony inside her armor. It was horrid and sickening to witness, but I felt a little better about it if I could imagine he was sending her soul straight to Celestia. Which led to the hurting reality of the body being carried inside the Sky Bandit. Should we have Steel Hooves cremated? Would Spike be willing? We can't stay here, Calamity said, the normal cheer gone from his voice. He looked at Ditzy Doo. None of us. Ditzy Doo nodded sadly. She dropped one of her chalkboards and wrote on it. Is this permanent? Nah, I reckon it should bleed off, just like when Pyrelight soaked in the Philadelphia crater, Calamity assured her. But Pyrelight took days to return to normal, Velvet Remedy reminded him. Her eyes were still wet and puffy with tears. She had been riding with Steel Hooves' body and head, keeping watch over him, and Ditzy Doo has taken far more radiation than Firelight did. It could be weeks. The sweet ghoul mare looked panicked. She quickly erased her chalkboard and wrote Silver Bell in large letters. Oh my god. Velvet Remedy nodded, smiling sadly. I'll stay here and watch over her. You can't, I said, speaking up finally. We're not allowed inside town. Zenith looked up in surprise. We are not? She asked, her exotic voice betraying her own depression. When did we offend this town? Before your time, Calamity said. Back when it was just Little Pip, Velvet and me. Well then, I am not barred, it would seem, Zenith asserted, turning to Ditzy Doo. She too smiled gently. It would be a pleasure to watch Silver Bell for you while you have to be away. Ditzy Doo forgot herself, swooping up the zebra and giving Zenith a tight, albeit squishy hug. Zenith stiffened but bit back, and in response, the ghoul Pegasus swiftly backed away, writing sorry on her chalkboard. Hey, look, Ditzy, Calamity offered. I might know where y'all could get some help. There's a mayor up in Friendship City who has been researching radiation and its effects on creatures. If any pony can help you shed this off quicker, it would be her. Ditzy smiled brightly, one of her eyes rolling upward as she visibly fought her urge to hug Calamity now. Oh, it's adorable. Oh, poor Derpy trying to keep the straight eyes. Oh. Why don't you travel with us for a spell, Calamity offered. Ain't safe to travel alone, and we're headed that way, ain't we, Little Pip? Tenpony Tower. I nodded, realizing we couldn't cremate Steel Hooves' body. He wasn't ours. Fetlock first. We have to take Steel Hooves back to Stable 29. Oh god, this is... Oh god, that's rough. The massive gate to Appaloosa rumbled open. The griffin bodyguard who I had seen with Ditzy Doo before flew out, Silver Bell scampering after her. Her eyes went wide as she saw Ditzy Doo. Mommy, you look like Firelight. The little lavender filly began to charge across the road between us, trying to reach her. Zenith swiftly caught her, holding her back. Mommy! I heard her strangled sound. It wasn't sure if it was from Velvet or Ditzy Doo. The glowing Pegasus rubbed her hoof against her chalkboard, erasing Silver Bell's name, and wrote something else before picking the chalkboard up again. Silver Bell struggled against the restraining legs of Zenith and began to cry. Ditzy Doo trotted halfway to where Zenith was holding Silver Bell, as close as she dared to get, and set the chalkboard down on the streets. Stay away, love. Mommy's poison. Dude! Oh, this is actually so freaking rough and sad. Oh, that's so sad. The child can't even hug their adoptive parent. And Steel Hooves is dead. This is rough. A war is about to go down. Everything is bad. The clouds had begun to darken, threatening the Equestrian wasteland with another storm. Dark shadows moved just behind the surface of the clouds as we watched. The shadows took the shape of great black warships. Oh god! Black warship descending beneath the cloud current. Each warship was a huge deployment hangar and platforms for magical energy cannons. Hold on, folks. We gotta switch music here real quickly. A little too intensive. Dark shadows moved just behind the surface of the clouds as we watched. The shadows took the shape of great black warships descending beneath the cloud curtain. Each warship was a huge deployment hangar and platforms for massive magical energy cannons, flanked by blackest thunderclouds and moving through the air on a dozen propellers. Through my binoculars, I could barely make out the swarms of black dots that were armored Pegasi flying into formations between the warships. Gotta get just right. Raptors, Calamity announced grimly, watching as the warships descended lower, altering course slightly. Dragon killers. I allowed my magic to expire, dropping my binoculars onto the ground next to me. I was at a loss for an appropriately colorful metaphor. Anything involving Luna's horn now struck me as grievously inappropriate. My gaze found Ditzy Doo, the brightest point of light. She was enwrapped in a lead-lined cloak, something she had the griffin fetch from her shop. An old mailbag hung from her side, but her hooves face and wings still burned like an emerald furnace. I recalled something Homage had said as DJ Pone 3, claiming a male pony had delivered a letter from Ditzy Doo. Beneath the anti-radiation barding Ditzy Doo had provided me, and my own barding beneath my own coat was growing back over my hind leg. My new hind leg. Just thinking about that felt deeply wrong, and I'd been drinking enough Radaway to purge most of the radiation from my system, even traveling in the back of the absolutely everything delivery wagon. But I still felt weak and twisted up inside. We were just a hill back from Trixie's cottage. In theory, we had stopped for lunch, but no pony was eating. I couldn't stomach anything. Ditzy Doo didn't have to eat, and neither Velvet nor Calamity had an appetite. They both just stared at the cans of beans until Ditzy Doo trotted up, dropping her chalkboard which said, "Your poor beans are getting all lonely. They want to be with their stomach friends." Calamity had chuckled and nibbled a little after that. Velvet Remedy had just given a sad smile. I drank another Radaway. "They've been coming down out of the sky like the last 2 days," Calamity informed me. "Ponies are freaking out, going into hiding. Whole damn wasteland feels like it's under martial law." He looked, I don't know, askance at me. Glance at me. "They took over the broadcast this morning. Both Red Eye and DJ Pone 3's radios now are all Enclave all the time." I put in my ear bloom and turned on my Pip-Buck's radio, trying to ignore the squirming feeling on my insides. Instead of Homage's music or DJ Pone 3's voice, I caught the end of the Pegasus anthem. "Greetings, ponies of Equestria. By now, you have seen our ships in the sky overhead. Perhaps our Pegasi have even landed in your streets. But there is no need for alarm. Our scouts are merely assessing the current situation before we determine how best we can help you." I switched it off. I heard better propaganda from Red Eye. "I'm trying not to doubt myself here," Calamity admitted. "I left because I realized the Enclave never intended to rejoin the west of Equestria. The Enclave wasn't interested in helping down here. Now I'm second-guessing a lot of things." "They try to make a deal with the goddess," I told him. "They aren't here to help." "Yeah," Calamity said dourly. "I didn't really figure they were. This is just the backup plan." Calamity started packing up the camouflage net again. "Where'd you get that?" I asked. "Steel Hooves," Calamity sighed. "When the Enclave first appeared, he procured this from Crossroads. Said we needed to keep the Sky Bandit covered whenever we weren't moving." I swallowed. I started to think of all the times Steel Hooves had protected us. But that ended up just thinking about his voice. That deep masculine rumble like Flutterguy's voice, Watcher had claimed, and now I'd never hear it from him again. My burning eyes wanted to cry. "He was real good at that, Calamity," said solemnly, thinking tactically. We shared a moment of silence. Rest in peace, my boy. Minutes later, we were flying again. We had been trying to keep low, but the terrain was about to make that difficult. Calamity winged us upwards, gaining altitude as we passed over the ruins of Trixie's cottage. There were several alicorns standing around it. They didn't pay us more than a fleeting glance. If anything, I would have said they looked lost. "Tomorrow," Crossroads told us. I blinked with surprise. We were in the security center of Stable 29. A somber air hung over the entire stable. Here, we can probably stop with that then and go back to the old, given they're inside now. An somber air hung over the entire stable. Steel Hooves' body had been taken to the Crusader room by an honor guard. Tomorrow? I asked, swaying slightly. My body felt so weak. My hooves wanted to rest. My mind was fogged, but I was fairly sure that the new acting elder's announcement was abnormal. Isn't that awfully fast? Star Paladin Crossroads neighed. Every Steel Ranger outcast who would be able to make it is already here. Applejack's Rangers, Calamity spoke up at Crossroads' querying look. Calamity explained. I know that ain't an official name, but that's just how Steel Hooves thought of y'all. Looking down at his hoof, he added, should honor it's all I'm saying. Yeah. Hold on, let me turn that down. There we go. The brown mare with the cropped yellow mane nodded. What the heck? There we go. The brown mare with the cropped yellow mane nodded. As I said, all the Applejack Rangers who would be able to attend their elder's funeral are already here. There is no delay. It would be unseemly to allow his body to go unburied. I imagine there were internal matters to address as well. Steel Hooves had been the leader and symbol that all these Rangers had railed around. With him gone, Crossroads had to act quickly to keep the Rangers from falling apart. Every pony seemed to expect Crossroads to step into the role of elder. Many already acted if she was, but I sensed there was official protocol to be attended, and Crossroads was not willing to take those steps, while Steel Hooves remained unburied. Her love and respect for him were too much to allow that. Will you be able to attend? Wild manticores couldn't drag us away, Calamity said. I quickly offered a prayer to Luna that Calamity's words didn't beg prophecy. I nodded. I couldn't travel anymore tonight if I wanted to, I smiled grimly. I was having trouble standing. We'll stay the night, as long as it is all right with you. And you have a place, Ditzy Doo, can stay safely. Crossroads smiled grimly. Your glowing friend? We could put her in one of the shielded rooms in maintenance, she explained. I'm not going to turn away some pony just because she is a ghoul, especially not on the eve of Steel Hooves' funeral. But I can't have her trotting about the stable either. She's dangerous to those around her. I nodded. I knew Ditzy Doo would understand. Where? Nope, that was it. My legs decided that they were done with this standing thing and wanted to try something else. How about falling over? Yup, that sounded good. Thump. Little Pip, Calamity reared, his voice full of worry. I'm fine, I told him quickly. Floor's nice. I think I'll just stay down here for a little while. Crossroads stepped forward. What's wrong with her? Little Pip was in Splendid Valley when the mega spell went off, Calamity told him worriedly. She keeps breaking all the rules and surviving the impossible, and I think reality is kicking her tail for it. I'll have our medics, Crossroads was saying. I'm getting velvet, Calamity swore, turning and flying out of the room. I sighed all this fuss. I just needed to rest a bit. Just a little nap. Oh, dude. You know what's incredibly making this whole chapter hard to read? Is that I am listening to the Shiki OST, which is incredibly sad. You know what? If you folks want to listen to it too with me, I might as well play it for folks. Hold on. It do be like that. Let's really get the emotions going. Yo, they'll pick up. It's a soundtrack, so. Dark gray clouds hung over the Equestria the next morning. A cold wind blew across the grass, bringing the secret of impending rain. Soft rumbles of thunder growled in the depths of the cloud curtain. Somewhere in the distance, the crackling booms of some sort of gunfire echoed across the landscape. We were gathered in the greens of the rolling hills near Steel Hooves' shack. The wind rippled the dark water of the lake. Behind us, Ditzy Doo stood near a single large tree on the hilltop. She had draped a large black sheet over her lead cloak, her glowing face and hooves shining out from under it. The ghoul Pegasus had somehow known to bring several such sheets. I sat in a wheelchair just up the hill from the rows of armor-clad rangers that flanked both sides of the procession. I had been up for a little over an hour. I had passed out on the floor of the security center and slept all night in the stable clinic. The rest had done me a world of good, but I still felt terrible, an alien in my own body. Velvet Remedy had washed me, hardly speaking a word the entire time, then insisted I attend the funeral off my hooves. Calamity had created black dresses for both Velvet Remedy and myself out of the additional sheets provided by Ditzy Doo. Again, demonstrating this freaky knowledge of sewing, the cloth matched the color of my heart. I was drowning in sorrow, but I still hadn't managed to cry. I felt like I was broken. The rangers on each side of the aisle stomped slowly in unison, a processional beat. 6 rangers in ceremonial barding walked slowly down the cleared aisle, their mouths holding the rods that held up the platform upon which Steel Hooves' body rested. I noticed that Strawberry Lemonade was one of the No, Strawberry! No! Oh, poor girl! Oh, poor Strawberry. Having to be one of the pallbearers, that's so sad. Tears were spilling from her eyes as she kept step with the larger stallions, walking Steel Hooves to the hole in the ground that would be his final resting place. Some pony had welded Steel Hooves' head back on. Somehow, that was what got me the most. My breath caught, then came out in shudders. My whole body began to tremble, racked with sobs. Velvet Remedy reached up a hoof and held me gently. She had been crying softly since we left Stable 29, and most of the trip here yesterday. Now she comforted me while the dam inside me broke. My eyes burned fiercely. I still had no tears, but my whole body did what my eyes could not. Star Paladin Crossroads stepped forward as the pallbearers reached the pit. She began to say the words she had written the night before, words spoken on Steel Hooves' behalf. Applejack's Rangers, Crossroads began. That's what Elder Steel Hooves called us. My mind drifted as Crossroads spoke. I went back to when Steel Hooves first began traveling with us. So, why are you all still with us? I had asked Steel Hooves. Maybe I have nothing better to do. Lived through more than any of us could imagine, Crossroads was saying. He survived more than we could fathom, and through the centuries, his heart never strayed from his love and commitment to one single mare. I doubted him. He had kept his motivations, like his feelings, close to his chest. I remembered with pain that there was a time I considered bucking him to the curb. I follow you because you are a better pony than I am, and you remind me of some pony else. You honestly strive to help and protect other ponies. I believe she would have approved of you. He said that when I called him into question. I haven't been faithful to my oath for a long time, but at your side, I can be. Again. Nothing more appropriate than to repeat the words he spoke to us all, Crossroad reminded the rangers gathered before her. In the words of Steel Hooves, I call on you to stop and consider your oath. Consider where you are and what you are doing. Do your loyalties lie with Applejack, the mayor of the Ministry of Wartime Technology, the creator of the Steel Ranger armor, and the mayor who, by her own hooves, the sweat of her brow, and the honesty of her heart, forged the Steel Rangers? Another memory galloped on the hooves of the last. Steel Hooves and I staring out over the harbor, looking towards Friendship City. I need to thank you, little Pip. For what? I asked. Hold on, we're gonna skip. Another memory galloped on the hooves of the last. Steel Hooves and I staring out over the harbor, looking towards Friendship City. I need to thank you, little Pip. For what? I had asked. For failing, Steel Hooves had answered, surprising me. All this time, you have been some pony to look up to. You have made me want to be a better pony. But at the same time, you were too good. You were an impossible standard. Tonight, you have made it easier for me to live with myself. I curled up against Velvet Remedy, burying my face in her dress. Applejack was put in charge of the Ministry of Wartime Technology because she was the bearer of one of the elements of harmony, and the ruler of Equestria recognized the caliber of that. Do you think it was the virtue in her soul, or the jewelry on her neck that made Applejack a bearer? The mayor, who was soon to replace Steel Hooves, continued to speak his words with reverence they deserved. Today, you must choose with whom your oath lies. Another memory surfaced, filling me with fresh pain from my friend and from all he had lost. It's better that my child never knew me. Steel Hooves had been a haunted pony. Shadows of his past, his sins, mistakes, pressed down on him. I'm sorry, little Pip. I did everything I could to make them believe taking Stable 2 was a mistake. I've been for decades, but after you two showed up, and they had realized there was still a functional stable down there, I'd been so angry at him, even though he had tried his best. Part of me had wanted to kill him on the spot. He didn't resist or fight back. Instead, he had stepped up, became the better pony he had wanted to be. Thank you, Steel Hooves, Zenith had said, for helping my daughter's village. I know it must be hard for an old soldier to help Zebra Kin. This is making me sad. Oh. Applejack would have wanted her rangers to protect all good people. I'm sorry. I'm laughing, but I'm actually very sad about this. This is so sad. Rest in peace, my boy. I just need a minute. I'm laughing, but I'm crying at the same time. So don't think of it too much. Oh. Music doesn't help. Like I said, it's a very good emotional soundtrack. God dang. Oh man, you're joining in at the wrong time. Oh. God dang. Applejack would have wanted her rangers to protect all good people, not just ponies. He had struggled with his own prejudice. And was finally beginning to overcome that too. He had taken steps on a path to recovery that he would now never be able to complete. I tried to remember the last thing I had heard him say, a warning, urging us to move. But the words themselves slipped from my memory. Instead, the actual words I clearly remembered my friend speaking were, "The rest of you can go ahead if you wish, but Applejack would not want her rangers to ignore a cry for help." "Carry on in his name and in his memory," Crossroads said, concluding her eulogy. There was a pregnant silence broken only by the wind and the sounds of strange gunfire that continued in the distance unabated. "Is there any pony else who wishes to speak?" Crossroads offered, the sadness soaking her voice. "Before we lower Steel Hooves into his final rest." I pulled myself from Velvet and focused my magic rolling forward. She walked beside me as we made our way to the front. I turned towards the expectant heads of the Rangers. I opened my muzzle, but my voice caught in my throat. Another sob shuddered through me. I stared down again. Velvet put a steadying hoof on my shoulder. I swallowed heavily. I only knew Applesnack for a short time, but I may have known him better than any pony. He shared things with me. Memories. I stopped. I couldn't continue. Instead, I lifted my Pitbuck-infused leg. Velvet Remedy's horn began to glow. There's nothing I can say to do him justice, but as Applesnack is lowered, I want to play this song. It was his and Applejack's song. I started the music. Velvet's magic amplified it beautifully, allowing it to carry across the grassy hills, wafting over the pits of sand and out across the lake like a breeze. I want to calm the storm, but the war is in your eyes. How can I shield you from the horror and the lies, when all that once held meaning is shattered, ruined and bleeding, and the whispers in the darkness tell me we won't survive? And as the song played, the knight stepped forward, setting down the platform where Steel Hooves' body rested, encased still in his steel ranger armor adorned with red trim and Applejack's cutie mark painted on his flank. God, dude, this is sad. The platform rested over the pit, the poles resting on the edges of the freshly dug earth. All things will end in time. This coming storm won't linger. Why should we live as if there's nothing more? So hold me neath the thunderclouds, my heart held in your hooves. Our love will keep the monsters from our door. My God. I don't care if you spam, bro. Not right now. Just don't do it too much. This song was only marred by the rumble of distant thunder and the persistent sound of weapons fire. Strawberry Lemonade stepped away, her tear-reddened eyes meeting mine. Then she turned away, looking into the distance. I heard the sharp intake of air as Strawberry Lemonade galloped. I lifted my gaze in the direction she was staring. Far, far away, I could see the mountain range that ran through Equestria, the silhouette of Canterlot jutting from the tallest cliffside, wrapped in a haze of pink that had been slowly bleeding away over the last few days. Dark forms hovered around the city, sparking flashes of color light. For I know tomorrow will be a better day. Yes, I believe tomorrow can be a better day. A few other rangers were turning to look, although most kept their focus reverently on Steel Hooves. Against the better judgment of my aching heart, I floated out my binoculars and turned them towards Canterlot. Enclave raptors, several of them were firing on the Camelot ruins. No, I realized a spike of disbelief and dread laced through me. They were firing under the city. Oh goddesses, they couldn't. But even as I thought the words, the reinforced supports beneath the royal city gave way. The city above shifted white towers, cracking and breaking apart as the whole of Canterlot crashed down the mountainside. The rumble echoed over all of the equestrian wasteland, almost indistinguishable from the rest of the distant thunder. A black pit swallowed my heart. We'll come back for her, I promised. Until then, she's safe here. My last promise to Steel Hooves, and now I would never be able to keep it. The Enclave have destroyed the Camelot ruins, casually killing every pony in Stable City. You missed enough. The wind cut into my mane as I stood before the grave marker that one of the ranger ponies had already created. It was beautiful, stately marker, fashioned from large chunk of polished rose granite that had been scavenged from the Fetlock Chamber of Commerce. Red and gray, Steel Hooves colors. Here rests Elder Steel Hooves, Apple Snack, forefather of Applejack's Rangers, steadfast, enduring, unwavering, and a true friend. Calamity stood beside me. Velvet Remedy just behind. Zenith should be here. I noted mournfully. Yup, agreed Calamity. She's here in spirit, Velvet Remedy reminded us. I looked down at the base of the gravestone and the special holder that had once been fashioned there. She ain't the only one, Calamity said, following my gaze. In that special niche rested the orange silhouette with the blonde mane and tail which I had told Crossroads that she would find in Steel Hooves' shack. The words, "Be strong," were barely visible where the base was set into granite. His little pony would watch over him forever. The spirit of Applejack would never leave his side. I rolled slowly down the hall of Stable 29, my thoughts filled with the shadows and regrets and pain. I'd failed Steel Hooves. He was dead, and I failed him. He'd only asked the one thing of me. He asked me to save just one pony, but I left Star Sparkle in Camelot, and now she was dead. I wondered if the Enclave even knew they had wiped out a village of ponies, if they had bothered to check before they started their attack, if they even cared. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough crying emojis. That's enough. That's enough. Too much. I reached the end of the hall and looked up at the lit banner above the door. Vinyl scratch. I lifted a hoof and clopped it against the door. Velvet? A voice drifted out from inside. I want to be alone. Velvet, please. I know she was taking the loss of Steel Hooves hard, but I had begun to really worry when Calamity had told me she had locked herself in Vinyl Scratch's room. It's time for us to go. I said I wanted to be alone, she shouted from behind the door, making me flinch. Velvet? Something was wrong, even more wrong than I knew. Please talk to me. I heard the door unlock. The metal slid away with pneumatic hiss. Velvet Remedy was standing there looking wrecked. A cross expression on her face, her horn was glowing. You don't want to talk to me right now, little Pip. Now go. I focused, beginning to roll inside. She telekinetically threw something at me, hitting me in the chest. I looked down at the object which had bounced off me and fallen in my lap. It was a box of memory orbs. Steel Hooves, memory orbs. You knew, Velvet said firmly, but surprisingly without accusation. Calamity told me that much, but I didn't realize Steel Hooves knew too. All of you did. Oh God, as she'd look at his memories, She'd seen him dying on the battlefield the day that Fluttershy first tested the mega spells. Velvet, I began, only to find there was nothing I could possibly say other than, I'm sorry. Just go, I choked. I was trying. I should have. Told me? She questioned, a pained smirk crossing her muzzle. I know why you didn't. You were trying to spare me the truth. Trying to save me. And others, I suspect. That's what you do, isn't it? There was something in her voice I deeply disliked. I had been fearing this day for weeks. Sure that the truth about Fluttershy's role in the end of things would devastate Velvet Remedy, but I was expecting rage, screaming, not this. Fluttershy, she made a mistake. I offered, wanting to tell Velvet that the Megaspell bombs weren't really Fluttershy's fault, that all the death and destruction shouldn't be laid at her idol's hooves, that it was okay to still love Fluttershy. Fluttershy created something beautiful, Velvet Remedy interjected sternly, brooking no room for arguments. The only mistake she made was that she gave it to any pony. Well, I should be relieved to hear her say that, right? So why wasn't I? Now, if you'll excuse me, I want to be alone, she said gravely. I don't think I can travel with you anymore. Honestly, Velvet Remedy's being kind of a freaking idiot. You know, everybody knew this was all to protect her. She even said she could handle it. Looks like she can't. I'm just saying. What? I breathed, my wounded heart breaking. I couldn't lose another friend. Not now. What? Why? Velvet Remedy huffed, becoming truly cross. You really want to leave, little Pip, before I say something we will both regret. She began to walk away, trying to close the door behind her. It refused to shut, sensing that I was in the way, but Velvet Remedy spun, stomping Fluttershy's mistake was giving the mega spells to other ponies. She'd created magics of life and healing. How could I not love her for that? She glared. But it was beyond naive to think she could give mega spells to anyone without them being turned into something horrible. I fought to respond, but my brain wasn't working. I felt paralyzed as I watched one of my dear friends seem to self-destruct. Oh, I understand why she thought other ponies would use the spells for good. I've been just as stupid. I've spent all my life wanting to help ponies because I've held to this idiotic, naive belief that deep inside we are inherently good, that we deserve to be helped, to be saved. Her words were giving me unpleasant flashbacks to Mr. Topaz. We are basically good. Velvet Remedy laughed a broken, nasty laugh. Haven't you been paying attention, little Pip? She scolded. Did you somehow miss Arbu? How about Fluttershy's cottage? Or even every other damn thing we've seen? She shook her head. Deep inside, we're all raiders. My muzzle hung open. No, that's not true. I knew Velvet Remedy was hurting. I prayed this was her pain speaking. I couldn't bear seeing her like this. No, she countered. Even the best of us fall to evil at the drop of a hat. Do you know what the worst thing I have ever done in my life was? I suspected she was about to bring up killing the raiders in Fluttershy's home, but she surprised me. It was when I tried to use you to make Calamity jealous. I knew you loved me and She lowered her head. It was horrible. What I tried to do was cruel and unkind. I didn't deserve forgiveness. I wanted to reach out and hug her, to hold her. But I forgave you, I told her softly. We all have moments of evil, she interrupted. That's the point, little Pip. Hell, you're possibly the most selfless, noble pony in the wasteland. And look what you've done. We're here attending Steel Hooves' funeral because you decided to set off a mega spell in their den. I reeled as if she had bucked me. Honestly, I know you just think of them as monsters, and I even know why you had to do it. The goddess was a threat to everyone and everything, but you blew up their home to get at her, little Pip. Oh, goddesses. You massacred all those monster families with their little monster children. Her tone was sad and without malice, but each word slammed into me like a force of a sledgehammer. Honestly, what did you expect them to do? Roll over? Play dead? She looked directly at my eyes. Steel Hooves is dead because of what you did. My whole body went numb, and the worst part is that it was the right thing to do. All of this, Steel Hooves' death, it was all my fault. And you are the best of us. She reached up and pushed me out of the door with a hoof. I'm not coming with you, little Pip. I can't help save the wasteland if I can't believe the ponies in it are worth saving. The metal door slid shut between us. I fell out of my wheelchair and curled up on the floor, hurt beyond the telling of it. Finally, the tears came, and they wouldn't stop. How freaking sad, dude. Calamity came looking for me. I didn't want to move. I wanted to just die. Honestly, I freaking hated Velvet Remedy from the start. I don't care if she was a healer. She came off as a schmooze. I did this, I moaned, unable to cry anymore. Now you stop that right now, you hear? Calamity ordered. You risked your own life and nearly lost it saving the Equestrian wasteland from one of the biggest threats I could imagine. You're a big damn hero, and I won't stand for none of this self-pity. That bomb killed how many hellhounds? Pegasi? How many unintended dead just to take out the goddess? I imagine even Red Eye would be appalled at how I had discarded my morals. Where I see it, you saved every pony, Calamity told me. And weren't for your fault the damn Enclave showed up when they did. No pony could have predicted that. Dude, that's so true. All Velvet did through the story is instigate, gaslight, self-loathe, everything. The pity party. How about the Hellhounds? Calamity nickered. Ah, damn it, Velvet. He stomped. The Hellhounds are nothing but murderous territorial monsters who kill ponies indiscriminately. They have been for centuries. Y'all saved countless lives by wiping so many of them out. He was right, but that didn't stop me from thinking of magical dragon's fire burning away monsters' families filled with helpless, screaming children. Let's go get you well, Lil Pip. I blinked looking at him. You're coming with me? I was actually surprised that the Pegasus nodded. I want to stay with Velvet, be here for her, Calamity told me, flapping his wings in his discomfort, but y'all need to get to Manhattan, and it ain't safe for y'all to travel alone. A sick heroine and a ghoul merchant, he shook his head, she'll be hurting something fierce, but if I don't come along, I reckon you might not make it. And I ain't aiming to lose any more friends this week. Manhattan homage. My heart was bleeding out. I needed her so badly, but the idea of seeing her again filled me with dread. How could she possibly want anything to do with me after all I had done? After what I had become? He leaned down and gave me a nuzzle, especially not my first one. I felt the brush of warmth against my bleak dead heart. Thank you. I'm sorry for pulling you away from her. From what I gather, y'all have given her more help than I could. If there's any way out of the darkness she's in right now, those little statue thingies are the best guys she could hope for. Sometimes my Pegasus friend was startlingly wise. This chapter is anguish, and we've only been here for an hour and a half. God dang! Dude, I know. From the beginning, she's been using people. She plays the, like, paladin, but, like, also as a selfish cleric. Calamity and I huddled together in the back of the delivery wagon. Honestly, we're get rid of the emotional music now that all that crud is out of the way. Dude, like I said, folks, that is a good emotional soundtrack. Calamity and I huddled together in the back of the delivery wagon, clad in anti-radiation barding. Our girlfriend had smiled broadly as she produced the second suit from the back of the wagon. She was one tailored for Pegasus Stallion. I was beginning to think Ditzy Doo really did carry absolutely everything we might need. Sorry, I needed to do that. Oh, dude. I say we skid her. Yeah, it turns out she wasn't as pure. Honestly, yeah, she's trouble. Calamity and I huddled together in the back of a delivery wagon. I already read that. We might need. Calamity had strapped his battle saddle on over the anti-radiation barding, foregoing his normal armor. Even with the barding, we were having to consume right away, at least once every hour. Calamity didn't have to be in here with me, but he insisted. I was both thankful and annoyed with him for it. Calamity didn't want to risk taking the Skyband into Manhattan. Crossroads had confirmed reports of a lot of Enclave operating within the city, so we would either have to go in on Hoof or in Ditzy Doo's wagon. The trip shouldn't take more than a few hours. We are going to stop at Tenpony Tower first, drop me off, then Calamity was going to go with Ditzy Doo to Friendship City. If Homage would still have me, I hoped to spend a week wrapped in her embrace. Ah, pony feathers, Calamity said, looking up from one of our 14th game. Best of 39? I was beginning to suspect he was letting me win. Really, no pony could be this bad at tic-tac-toe. I felt the wagon slow. Ah, hail. Dude, it's like the engineer. Ah, hail. Oh, hail. Calamity spat as two Enclave Pegasus shot past the wagon and yelled, circling back towards us. Uh-oh. God dang. Close that one. Yo, like some of you might remember this sound. Halt, Pegasus, one of them called out, her armor magnifying her voice and altering it with an intimidating reverb. Idente, great leaders. What the hell is that thing? Not good. Trash. I don't know. I don't know. They're shooting at us, I gasped. The two Enclave Pegasi had opened fire on Ditzy Doo. The wagon went on an abrupt dive. Calamity and I tumbled against the wall of the wagon along with several crates. One containing dozens of packets of Radaway spilled open, scattering glowing orange packets. Several fell through the window that looked out the front of the wagon. I pulled myself to the window and peeked out as the wagon began to pull up, twisting as Ditzy Doo made a hard turn, weaving through the piers of the Luna Line. I want it to be quiet, but not, like, too loud. Go along with several crates, one containing packets were spilled away, scattering glowing orange packets. Several fell through the window that looked out the front of the wagon. I pulled myself to the window and peeked out as the wagon began to pull up, twisting as Ditzy Doo made a hard turn, weaving through the piers of the Luna Line. Smoke curled off a hole in her lead barding, just behind her left wing, glowing ichor seeping from her wounded flesh. Bzz, bzz. Above me, part of the roof glowed, a hole in the size of a fold disintegrating away. I floated out Little Macintosh, pushing myself into a toppled crate until I could see one of the attacking Pegasi through the opening. I slid into Sats. Calamity launched himself out of the back of the wagon, taking wing as I fired several shots into the black carapace of the Enclave soldier. Two of the bullets glanced off the armor, but the third penetrated. I ducked back down, needing to reload with either armor-piercing or magical bullets. Zzz. The wagon shifted again, all the crates sliding towards open rear gate as Ditzy Doo tried to gain altitude. I cast out a levitation net, trying to keep Ditzy Doo from losing all the wares she was carrying. A bolt of magical energy flew into the wagon, striking one of the metal boxes and melting it, destroying whatever had been inside. Oh, dang, now it feels too quiet. But it looks okay. It looks okay. I could hear Calamity's battle saddle firing. Dead shot, Calamity. I was sure he hit his mark. One of the Enclave Pegasi was swooping in right behind us. The gems in her battle saddle crackled, glowing brighter as the Pegasus switched to a more powerfully charged Sparkle Packs. I lifted little Macintosh, my targeting spell allowing me to lock onto the Pegasus's head. I hadn't had time to swap bullets, but if I could hit the visor, I was sure my shot would go through. I was thrown back violently as Ditzy Doo suddenly came to a complete stop. The chasing Pegasus tried to pull up, but slammed jarringly into the back of the wagon's roof. We started moving again as the black carapace-clad Pegasi dropped to the ground unconscious. I was cleaning up the crates, levitating them into the order when Calamity flew back in. "Sorry, little Pip, but I couldn't bring myself to kill the fellow," he said, his muzzle etched in a grimace. I grounded him while I shot through the wing, but we're likely to have more trouble from that lot. He looked away. I used to be one of those soldiers. I understood. Do you want to talk about it? Calamity shook his head. Not right yet. Let's get you better first, he said, looking for time. But yeah, I reckon I'm gonna have a talk about this, and sooner than later. Oh, it just keeps getting better, I groaned as we spotted the Enclave array on the top of Tenpony Tower. Ditzy Doo veered away, looking for a safe place to land, someplace out of sight. We would have to approach Tenpony on hoof, or more precisely, I would. The Enclave presence in Tenpony meant that it was no place for either of my Pegasi friends. A memory resurfaced. Open it back up, Ambrosia had yelled, ordering me as the antenna-like weapons of her battle saddle had glowed threateningly. You open this room right now, or I swear by the council I will teach you what it's like to melt. I can't. I tried to reason with her. I'm as trapped as you are. This room can only be opened from outside, and based on the videos I'd seen on the first trip to Mare Pony, only by the goddess. This was all just a flash. A fragment of those 30-plus minutes I was missing. Ditzy Doo landed in the darkened mouth of a crumbling chariot wash. She unhitched herself from the wagon, digging a healing potion out of the mailbag slung at her side. Ditzy Doo? Calamity? Would you wait here for me? I asked plaintively. Just a few hours, in case I can't get back in or something goes wrong, in case Homage kicks me out. Ditzy Doo nodded swiftly, then dropped her chalkboard and wrote a single word. Muffins? I smiled. If I can get Homage to bake some more, absolutely. A few minutes later, I was walking through the rubble towards Tenpony Tower. The building seemed so much more imposing from street level. It towered upwards, the only truly intact building anywhere close to its side, rising out of the graveyard of Manhattan like a lighthouse, serving as both beacon and warning. My hooves trod between emptied cans of food, old campfires, and a dozen other reminders that part of Red Eye's army had camped around the tower, cutting it off from the rest of the Equestrian wasteland, threatening to destroy it with a balefire bomb. The balefire bomb I had talked Red Eye into sending into Splendid Valley so I could use it to kill the goddess and destroy the Black Book, and kill countless others, including Steel Hooves in the act of it. The thought clawed at my heart. The little pony in my head wept quietly. I stopped, leaning against a giant S, one of the more intact letters which had come crashing down from the face of the building. I wasn't breathing right. I wanted to collapse again, and I couldn't tell if it was from the sorrow threatening to overwhelm me, or the weakness that was wrecking my body. They felt like one and the same. Ahead, I saw the main entrance to Tenpony Tower had been armored over. The whole lower floors were barricaded with a yard of magically fused rubble. The only way in, other than the roof, was through the 4-star station above me. I had already known this, of course, but it didn't make the idea of levitating up to the station any less exhausting. I looked upwards and saw the black insectoid form of an armored Enclave soldier standing across one of the tracks above me. With a flick of my hoof, I turned on my MG Stealth Buck 2 and became invisible. "What do you mean she's not here?" I cried as I followed Lifebloom. Lifebloom led me through the secret parts of Tenpony Tower, places that neither the citizens of the tower nor its new armor-clad guests knew of. "Just that, little Pip," Lifebloom affirmed. "The Enclave shut down her broadcast, apparently. They have the ability to override what any of the rest of us are doing with those towers." "But it will still be my project, right?" Rainbow Dash had asked. "It will still be a part of the Ministry of Awesome?" The Enclave didn't control the central hub for the single Pegasus project, but they controlled who knew how many Ministry of Awesome hubs above the clouds. And Rainbow Dash had assured that the Ministry of Awesome had overriding authority. I knew my homage. She wouldn't stand for being shut down. She would see the truth got out if it killed her. "When did she leave?" I asked, worried more for her now than I had been when Tenpony Tower faced Red Eyes bomb. That, at least, I had been in a position to prevent. "Yesterday morning, just a few hours after they took control of the airwaves," Lightbloom told me, as we reached the chamber where he would purge the taint, still trapped in my body. "She took a bunch of those override devices like the one she gave you for the Philadelphia Tower. Said she had an idea." "You go, homage," I whispered, wanting to cheer for her despite my worries and fears. Ditzy Doo's hooves touched down on the docks of Friendship Island. "Oddly nice being able to approach Friendship City without being shot at, ain't it?" Calamity asked me as he hopped out of the back of the wagon. "Yup," I said, mimicking his accent decently. He chuckled. Ditzy Doo detached from the wagon and shook herself, the lead-lined cloak fluttering. She had been disappointed from understanding about the lack of muffins. Calamity had been concerned when my stay at Tenpony Tower had proved so short-lived. But without homage, and with Pegasi in black carapace-like armor, walking through the public areas of the ritzy building, I had found myself without reason or desire to stay, watching a couple armored Enclave ponies looking into the windows of my locked-up former cheese shop as they chatted about how they should require hero discounts was the final buck that drove me back outside. Guard pony was approaching us, her eyes shifting between the two Pegasi. "So it's just a visit from the great and benevolent Enclave, is it?" Calamity coughed, stomping a bit. "Not hardly." "Really?" the guard asked, moving closer. "Then let me see your flank." I raised an eyebrow at that, but Calamity turned, taking the anti-radiation barding in his teeth and pulling it up over his flank, revealing the scar in the shape of a cloud and a lightning bolt that had destroyed his cutie mark. "All right then," the guardmare said, relaxing visibly. "Welcome to Friendship City." She gave us a pleasant smile. Her eyes scanned over the wagon, then looked at Ditzy Doo, widening in surprise. "Ditzy? The Wasteland survival guy Ditzy?" Ditzy Doo gave a happy clap at the recognition. DJ Pone 3 had said you were a ghoul, but he never said you were a glowing one. Ditzy Doo set down her chalkboard and wrote it on it before kicking it over to the guard. "Glow is new. Too much Splendid Valley. Friendship City. Can fix?" The guard read the chalkboard and looked uncertain, but hopeful. "Well, if there is any pony who could help, it would be Dr. Freshwater. She's in charge of the science station built into Friendship Island. She created the water purifiers about a decade back, and has spent the last few years working on unlocking the mysteries of what she calls the Children of the Bombs." Cheery, I thought aloud, suspecting that I might very well fit into that category. Lifebloom had magically purged me of taint, but I had been exposed to a lot of it, both through direct contact with the dirty IMP lake. Maybe they are a super mutant. I don't know. And Maripony, and later, in trace aerosol amounts from the leak in the safe room. According to Lifebloom, all my internal organs were in the right place, and I hadn't started to change size or grow wings, but the taint had altered me on a fundamental biological level. According to the unicorn, I was closer to being an alicorn than to being a Yeah, dude! Dude, Little Pip's gonna become a divine savior of the freaking wasteland. According to the unicorn, I was closer to being an alicorn than to being a put. Dude, that's so freaking cool. Yeah, I know. I figured that out. But it's just awesome now that's finally coming into like fruition for like a character that we have. This is what I've been hoping Little Pip was exposed to, like the FEV strain kind of crud since the last chapter when they fell into that taint-ridden water. But this is just as good. I did not consider this a good thing. The goddess claimed the alicorns were improved and superior, better suited than ponies to survive and thrive in the new world, and their natural successors. I just felt a stranger in my own skin. The guard gave me a look. And anything I can help you with, friend? If I'm correct, the super mutants were designed to obviously be super strong and crud, but they were designed to be dumb so they can be ordered around, if I'm correct. That's why they have the reduced brain capacity and crud. I'm pretty sure. I thought a moment. We're here to help Ditzy Doo, and we'll be staying as long as that takes. Can you give us a quick picture of Friendship City? The guard nodded. You bet I can. Basic rundown is this. Friendship City tries to be a good place for decent ponies to live with as much freedom and safety as we can offer. The island makes that pretty easy. We don't get much trouble from raiders or slavers out here. Usually just the occasional sea serpent or eradicator. We occasionally get refugees or folks looking to settle down. We do the best we can for them. Although we're beginning to run out of room. Raspberry Tart wants to start building shacks. It's just a side effect then? Their stupidity is just natural? Okay. Raspberry Tart wants to start building shacks around the base of the main city. But Mayor Black sees is impeding the expansion. She doesn't want Friendship Island becoming a shantytown. I nodded, taking mental notes. Friendship City is run by a council of 3 August ponies. Dr. Freshwater, who I've already told you, heads up the science station. Mayor Blackseas, who speaks for the general citizenry, and Chief Lantern, who is head of the guard. If you're looking for temporary housing, your best bet is the Warm Smiles Inn. You can also seek refuge in the common room for free. Here, we're gonna just switch back again. Common room for free, but I don't recommend it, the guard scout. That place is run by Raspberry Tart. Mayor says she runs things crooked. Don't know about that, but I do know she takes advantage of the lack of supervision she had fostered around that place. Ditzy Doo bristled and neighed, stomping a hoof at my questioning look. She trotted over and recovered her chalkboard, erasing it with her hoof and writing, RT does bad business. No muffins for her. The guard began to lead us around the science station entrance with back-doored onto the docks. Despite the city's name, the entrance looked anything but friendly. Thick armored slabs operated by pneumatic sealed the science station with armor-shielded turrets covering the approach. There was no lock and no terminal, just a camera. The door could only be opened by some pony inside. A little green mat of foxgrass and white flowers lay at the foot of the door saying welcome. Raspberry Tart is the head of the Merchants Union. Mayor Blackseas says she's building a case to get her thrown out of the city, but the others won't act unless they have proof for fear that she'll take too many of the merchants with her. The guard will arise. That is, assuming she could even get out the front door. The guard waved a hoof at the camera, smiling. I heard the turrets power down as the thick slab slid open with a deep-throated hiss. Now, I'm afraid you will have to turn in your weapons at the door, the guard mayor cautioned. Friendship City is a friendly place. Friends, and we want to keep it that way. You'll get them back once you leave. I recommend you take a moment to introduce yourselves to Mayor Blackseas as soon as you get Ditzy Doo settled in. You'll find her in Black Sea Supplies. She then smiled to Calamity, and I imagine you'll be wanted to be paying a visit to Radar, our resident Dashite. Dashit? Calamity gaped in dumbfounded surprise. Radar's still alive? He gasped. And he's here? Yes, indeed. Ancient as dirt, but still flapping his wings. He was in charge of the science station back when Friendship City was founded. Helped turn the city into a place it was. I blinked suddenly, remembering a chapter from the Wasteland Survival Guide on the founding of some city somewhere. I had only skimmed the chapter at the time. I read the book after all. I had been more interested in basic survival tips than grandiose concepts like settlement building, and then I remembered Calamity's assertion that a Pegasus had helped string up the rope bridges connecting the freestanding sections of Friendship's Bridge. The guard grinned at Calamity's expression. I take it you aren't really expecting to see another da shit in your lifetime. I giggled at my companion. Might want to pick up your job before you come in. Calamity was turning in his battle saddle at the guard station just aside when a water blue unicorn pony with a short shock of raspberry mane and a matching short tail trotted up with a sense of urgency. Dressed in a lab coat, she looked very scientific. Hello, every pony. Welcome to Friendship City Science Station, where we're making a better tomorrow for all pony kind. Please come in, she encouraged. I'm Dr. Freshwater. This is my facility. Please make yourself at home. Don't touch anything. Oh. I thought they were just straight up brain dead. They act pretty stupid anyway. She shook my hoof, then spun immediately to Ditzy. Well, East Coast ones from the Institute are rock stupid. I'm just saying. Ditzy Doo, is it? Dr. Freshwater asked, floating on a pair of glasses and trotting over to get a closer look at our glowing ghoul Pegasus. She floated out a small device that began to clickety-click just like the radiation sensor on my pit buck. Ditzy Doo nodded, apparently at ease with the abrupt invasion of personal space. Let's quickly get you to the radiation testing chamber, shall we? My, your output is impressive. And this is new condition? When did you become like this? When did you get such exposure? No, don't stop to write anything. Just come along. The doctor was already trotting away, motioning with her tail for Ditzy Doo to follow. Let's get you all hooked up. Ditzy Doo glanced back over her wings, giving us a look that I couldn't interpret because her eyes were doing that weird thing of hers. Then she fluttered off after an impatient Dr. Freshwater who seemed eager to poke and prod her in the name of science. She'll be all right, won't she? I asked, passing Lab Pony. Oh yeah, sure, the pony drawled. Once she got the glowing one strapped in, she'll stay on the safe side of the glass. I meant Ditzy Doo, I said crossly as the lab pony ambled away. I'm sure she'll be fine, Calamity assured me as he flew up into the next to me battle saddle free. Dr. Freshwater seemed a bit odd, sure, but if she can help Ditzy Doo go back to Silverbell any faster, I'm sure the old mare will be happy to put up with the tests. Hello. I shuddered, disliking the idea. This was why we were here, why Ditzy had wanted to come, but that didn't make me feel comfortable with it. I hoped they did right by her. Zebra potions, the elderly Pegasus insisted proudly when Calamity rather bluntly asked about his longevity. Radar thumped a Steel Hooves. Sienna. Oh, no freaking idea. Hoof against his chest, wincing slightly, and exclaimed, "Ain't nothing better. Them strippers have unlocked all manner of secrets with the Bruins. You'd be amazed." God dang. Actually, I can believe it. I told the wrinkled-old Sienna pony, whose close cropped mane might have been white even before the turn of the century. I chuckled, eyeing Calamity, who looked caught between an urge to dash and desire to break in a squeeze of oh my gosh. It was a reunion he had never expected with a pony he had never known. But the mere idea that he wasn't the only shite in the equestrian wasteland seemed to have overwhelmed him. That darned upstart young and freshwater may have usurped my position on the city council, even taken over my place as head researcher, but she can't force me to retire. Not while there's plenty of life and mind in me. Radar insisted. I'm as fit as I ever was. To prove it, the old Pegasus stretched out his wings and flew halfway across his loft in the back of the science station. He made it 3 full yards before having to land, wheezing frightfully. Whoa there, Calamity said, the spell he seemed to be underbreaking. He flew up to the wobbling elderly Pegasus, trying up to study him, but Radar pushed the younger Dashite away. I said I was fit, don't need your help, he looked between us. Now, who are you folk and what can old Radar do for you few? Fur. I'm Calamity, my friend said warmly, and this my best friend Little Pip. I'm a Dashite down from clouds for about 7 years now. I thought I was the only one around. I mean, I heard stories, yeah, but you left the Enclave so long ago. And now they've come back, Radar pointed out. Hell of a bad bit of timing, Calamity nodded morosely. Radar looked Calamity up and down. Tell me, what do you think they're here for? I don't know, Calamity admitted, but I don't think they're here to save the wasteland. The elderly Pegasus smirked. Ah, so you don't buy the horse apples they're shoveling over the radio, none either. Calamity shook his head. Good buck. I was beginning to think it was just me. And you, what's your name? Radar turned to me. And how about you, youngin'? You think they come down from the big old sky to save your tail? Little Pip, I reminded him. And no, I definitely don't. Radar smiled, nodding sagely. Well, way I see it, it's got to do with a sustainable Pegasus project. That's the key to the Enclave's power. How so? I asked. Agriculture. You silly corn, Radar stated. Without the towers, the Enclave can't feed the ponies. The Pegasi wouldn't be able to survive cut off above the cloud curtain. Remember when you asked about what we ate up here? And I joked about cloud seeding? Calamity had told us, referring to a conversation he had the morning after the Pinky Bell farm. I don't know what them towers were originally meant to do, but I know what the Enclave has repurposed them to do. And that's to enchant the clouds for miles around them, so that we can grow crops right up in the sky. Without that, Radar insisted, the Enclave falls. Literally. Out of the sky. Red Eye plans to take control of the SPP. He wants to control the weather. Single Pegasus project. Radar scoffed, muttering on his breath, good luck with that. I remembered what Calamity said back in Spike's cave. The only time they can act as one is when they're feeling threatened. Then from their perspective, Radar surmised, it's him or them. Lunar's shuddering moonquakes, I cursed, getting a raised eyebrow from the elderly Pegasus and a whispered, she does this a lot, from Calamity. We could have seen this coming. I looked at Calamity in sullen wariness. When we first learned that Red Eye was messing with Philadelphia Tower, we could have at least guessed the Enclave would be stepping in sooner or later. By the time we had left Canterlot, we should have known for sure. I bit my lower lip. It was only a matter of time the moment they cottoned on the Red Eye's plan. Cottoned? What? Caught on to Red Eye's plan. Ain't like the Enclave has been paying the Equestrian Wasteland all that much attention, Calamity told me. Least, never seemed like they did to me. Few scout parties every year. Wait, Radar suddenly flew up to me, his snout pressing against mine. You said your name was Little Pip? Yes, I stammered, taken aback. You ever been to the Ministry of Awesome? Before the grand and mighty Enclave tore all of Canterlot down from the mountain? Also, now that I think about that, that just means the cloud is, going global, going free. God, dude. R.I.P., whatever Twilight's mother was named in this. I watched the monitor as Radar keyed up the sequence. Oh, I already read that. Y'all have been to the Ministry of Awesome? Calamity asked Radar, unable to conceal his shock. Yeah, I was, Radar replied. Was decades ago, not long after they burned my cutie mark off me. I was hoping to find answers. He looked at us as the monitor came to life, showing first static and then a scene of the MAW basement. I have no idea what Ma is. I forget what Ma is. The shield dominating the center. I didn't get no further than a security station, and I zoomed out of there, leaving the whole damn place on high alert behind me. But I did manage to snatch up this little gem from the security logs. I watched the monitor. The timestamp on the log was old, a few years post-apocalypse. What did you mean? Good luck with that. I asked as I watched the minutes tick by on the recording. What now? When I said Red Eye was planning to take over her single Pegasus project, I reminded him, you said good luck with that. Radar made a sound of understanding. Well, the whole damn Enclave's been trying to get into the central hub for generations now. If they can't do it, I don't see how Red Eye has a chance. He's got a plan, I said confidently. Does he now? Radar scoffed. Well, I'd love to hear it, cause that place is locked up tighter than my ex-wife. God dang! Oh goddess, how did I not need to imagine the images that conjured? Place has been best defenses Equestria could build. It has a super shield around it so powerful nothing had been able to penetrate it. Suppose it has super guns too, but they're all inside the shield, and that shield is so over-designed that they're pretty much useless. I know that the Enclave has built a whole base around it, Calamity added. A whole mess of troops just to guard a place no pony can get into. Radar chuckled, grinning at Calamity. Never found any pony who could get through. Enclave High Council figures the shield's keyed only to Rainbow Dash herself, and Dash had no surviving kin, so when she left, she pretty much screwed the powers they were out of their prize. Bet they took that well, Calamity grinned back. Deemed her a traitor, what they did. Radar spat, sent Griffin Mercs to kill her and bring back her head. Hope some pony wearing Rainbow Dash around their neck might be able to walk through. Calamity and I both gasped in horror. I turned from the monitor. The Enclave wanted... That's... goddesses! Radar agreed grimly, correcting me in one point. Well, they weren't exactly the Enclave quite yet, but they were getting there right quick. What happened? Radar stated simply. Well, either they ain't never got her head, or they did and it didn't work. Pinkie Pie? Rainbow Dash's voice floated up from the monitor. I shifted back to see the rather bedraggled Cyan Pegasus walking into the basement. The security camera zoomed in following her. You sure? Pinkie Pie? She tried again, sounding so small in the vast room. I brought them, just like you asked. What's this about? Rainbow Dash stopped a few yards front of the shield, the magical light painting the shadows across her features as she looked around. You weren't kidding about the health potions, by the way. I'm down to my last one, and I still need to make it out of that pink stew outside. That stuff is awful. The room remained still and silent. The light in her eyes went out entirely, her expression becoming painfully sad. You're not here, are you? Rainbow Dash asked the emptiness around here. I guess that means you didn't make it either. Rainbow Dash stepped solemnly through the shield. She walked up to the little pedestal sitting at its center and the memory orb box resting upon it, its lid slightly ajar. Rainbow Dash nudged it open with her nose, revealing 3 memory orbs and spaces for 3 more. The 2nd, 3rd, and 5th were missing. I don't know what you needed these for or who this little pip you mentioned in your note is, but I hope it's as important as you said it is. Rainbow Dash frowned, her voice soft and sad. She reached into her saddlebags and pulled a memory orb out with her teeth, gently setting it in the spot reserved for the butterfly orb. Wasn't easy getting these things, especially with Gilda on my tail, but even she isn't brave enough to follow me into what's become of Camelot. Much less my own ministry. She put the star orb into its resting place. But she's waiting for me out there, and after that pink crap, I'm not sure I can take her. Rainbow Dash fished the final memory orb, the one to be placed in the holder with her own cutie mark. She paused, staring at its little emblem of the cloud and its rainbow lightning bolt. then sighed and put the orb into its place. Rainbow Dash shifted her attention to the orb in the fourth holder, the balloon orb. But I trust you. You know that. You said this was important and I believe you. And I wouldn't leave my friend hanging, even after she was. The last word was barely a whisper. Gone. A single tear trailed down her cheek as she gave a wearily smirk. One last prank, right? Together as always. She lifted a hoof and pressed the orb box closed. The click of the lock loud in the sepulchre room. I don't know. I reached out and touched the monitor screen, tears welling in my own eyes. Rainbow Dash turned and started to walk away. She reached the inside of the shield. She stopped, her face screwed up with determination. But you know what, Pinky? Since you're not here, I'm changing the rules. Rainbow Dash spun around and trotted over the mainframe of the far side of the shielded area. If some pony comes poking around in here, I want to know. I'm setting an alarm to go off in every Ministry of Awesome hub. If I'm still alive, I want to meet this little pip of yours. Dash paused. Sorry, Pinks, she said, looking back over his shoulder. I hope you don't mind. Pretty sure she's dead already, honestly. Didn't she, like, die in a cave or something? I watched the rest of the recording in stunned, comprehending silence. Friendship City rose above us, concentric rings of stores and homes connected by walkways and platforms that spun out from the central spiraling stairwell, ascending through the chimney like open space like a plume of smoke rising to the head of the Pony of Friendship. Crowds of ponies moved up and down the spiral stair, diverting onto the catwalks and merging with the traffic that surrounded the layers of scavenged material structures built into the interior walls of the massive statue, a city built from junk. A fair portion of it pulled from ships which had sunk in the harbor. A small forest of support beams further congested the lower levels. Ponies gathered around a watering hole called Sparkles, run by a friendly but slightly frazzled mare with the cutie mark of Sparkle Cola on her flank. Her assistants moved between tables nearby, taking orders and delivering homogeneous deep-fried foodstuffs. From a radio nearby blared the sound of heavy horns, marching drums, and rumbling thunder. Enclave music. Ponies stopped to stare at us as Calamity and I walked through Friendship City. Conversations died on their unfinished sentences. For once, their gazes weren't oppressing me. It was the presence of a Pegasus in their midst that stretched their attention. Invariably, their eyes would quickly search out Calamity's flank. We no longer wore the anti-radiation barding, having left it with one of Dr. Freshwater's more amiable assistants. Without barding or battle saddle, Calamity looked strangely naked beneath his desperado hat. At the sight of Calamity's dash I ran, nervous faces broke into smiles. We were soon mobbed by strangers wherever we went, all offering friendly greetings to my Pegasus friend and his little mare companion. I'd garnered no attention at all until two Friendship City security guards approached, wearing heavy barding in cheery pastel colors that closely matched their manes. Welcome to Friendship City, Calamity, one of them smiled, offering a hoof. Word of our visit had spread faster than crowds had allowed us to travel. You must be the stable dweller that DJ Pone 3 keeps cheering. It's an honor to meet you, miss. I felt myself blushing hard as I stared up at the security pony. Sorry about shooting at you last week, the pony said, looking chagrined, offering me his hoof. I was reaching out to shake it when his dour partner groused sullenly, I'm not. I froze. The guard looked to his partner in dismay, but the other guard pony stirred a guard. She shot those foals, parents right in front of them, she said, glaring at me, with bullets of fire. Incendiary rounds. Oopsies. My hoof dropped back to the scrap metal floor. They call you Hellmare, you know, the guard glowered. The kids? The other guard, the buck, put a hoof over his face in embarrassment. All right, Nightbright, let's just go. He looked at us ungratefully. Sorry about that, folks. As the two guards moved away, Nightbright looked back over her shoulder and mouthed slowly, "Bullets of fire." No, yeah, no, don't do that. If it's not covered already, don't do it. No. Welcome to the Black Sea Supplies. The black-maned indigo mare of this counter greeted us genuinely. She took in the sight of us. "My name's Black Seas. I'm the mayor of this fine city and owner of this fine store. And you must be Little Pip and Calamity," she smiled. "Word gets around. Thank you for stopping in. What can I do for you today?" I looked around, feeling dazed. The small cargo ship that Black Sea Supplies was built out of had been cut apart and imported to the Pony of Friendship. Then rebuilt almost completely. Metal flooring and rows of shells had been welded into the hold. Narrow metal stairs led up to the living quarters, which had once been the captain's cabin. An old model precursor to the terminal, a combination of monitor and intercom system was built into the wall behind a counter that looked like it had been scavenged from a diner. Dude, I don't even think I could answer that question. If you told me what chapter so-and-so happened in, I don't think I could even tell you. It happened in one of them. Calamity flooded forward to greet Mayor Blackseas. "Pleased to meet you," he grinned back affably. "Mind if I take a poke round your store? I'm looking to do some trading." "Well, that's a damn fine coincidence," Black Seas grinned back. "That's what Black Sea Supplies is here for, after all. We got about everything you might be looking for. Here, let me show you." I watched in foggy amusement as Black Seas and Calamity dove into business. My Pegasus friend looking to unload a lot of what he scavenged from the Ministry of Image in return for bottle caps, ammo, and medical supplies, with an emphasis on Radaway. Black Seas was skilled and charismatic barter mare through this, and soon had him shopping for a gift from Velvet Remedy, something to touch her heart and remind her that there really is good in ponies worth fighting for. And I was giving you an answer. I don't think anybody is realistically going to be able to answer that question. Some people might. Your odds aren't high. My thoughts were still drowning in the cold reminder of Arbu, leaving me detached from the surroundings and the conversation in front of me. I barely reacted when the door opened and an arsenic-colored stallion brushed by, carrying a walking stick in his muzzle. I only reacted when the stick transferred into a magical energy blaster and he fired it at the mare. Tarvsef Hefo. Calamity was faster, flying into Black Seas, knocking her out of the path of the shot and into a shelf of lunchboxes, sensor modules, and garden gnomes, which rained down in an indigo mare. The blast of lethal magic struck a display of steam gauge assemblies, pulverizing it. My first reaction was to pull out little Macintosh, but with the start I realized my most trusted weapon was not with me. Calamity pivoted, hooves dropped into the floor as he stood between the assassin and Black Seas. The stallion shifted to get another shot, realizing who would have to take Calamity out to get at his target. I lashed out with my telekinesis, lifting the arsenic-colored pony and pushing him against the far wall, where two shelves blocked his view of both my friend and the mare. I wrapped my magic around his neck, squeezing. The stallion kicked and flailed, his eyes bulging. The magical weapon dropping to the floor with a clatter. Black Seas was climbing back onto her hooves, a couple garden gnomes rolling off her back. As the assassin lost consciousness, I released him. The mare blinked slowly, shaking her head. "Well, looks like your reputation as heroes is well-founded," she said, wincing slightly from a sprain. "Thanks for saving my life." "It's what we do," Calamity said, more for my benefit, I suspected, than hers. Oh, I knew who you were talking about. "Why you reckon he was out to kill you?" The mare frowned. "I'm pretty damn sure Raspberry Tart was behind this," she proclaimed, trotting over to the old terminal. She pressed one of the buttons under the monitor and barked. "Tart, I need to speak to you right now." The indigo pony tapped her hoof impatiently, glanced into Calamity. "Would you be a dear and tie that bastard up?" Her eyes dropped to the magical energy weapon on the floor. How the hell did Lantern miss that? I stepped up to where the weapon had tumbled, floating it upwards to examine it. It was a model I had never encountered before, but then I was barely knowledgeable about magical energy weapons. You might want to ask Grandpa Rattle about that, I suggested. The spell disguising the blaster as a stick was too similar to the old buck's magical research to be a coincidence. So not in this one. I can live with that, it's whatever. I have a shotgun. I couldn't imagine Grandpa Rattle working with murderous ponies, though. At least not willingly. I was suddenly fearful for the crazy old buck. The monitor flickered to life, showing... that one's not even... that's like a different spin-off story, though, so... I could imagine Grandpa Rattle working with murderous ponies, though. At least not willingly. I was suddenly fearful for the crazy old buck. The monitor flickered to life, showing the face of a grossly overweight pomegranate mare with a yellow mane and an overly charismatic smile. Oh, Mare Blackseas, how good it is to hear from you. Her words virtually oozed out of the speaker above the monitor. And to what do I owe the honor of you call this evening? Honestly, this just reminded me of like the Pony Mauve rarity. I am the most beautiful creature in Equestria. To gaze upon me is to know divinity itself. That's literally what this reminded me of reading that. You know exactly why I'm calling you murderous bitch, Blackseas spat, stomping her. You just sent a pony to kill me. Language, she chitted, her smile unfazed by the accusation. Now, it is hardly befitting the mayor of our glorious city to use such foul sentiment, or go slinging such dreadful false accusations. You deny it, then? Blackseas narrowed her eyes. Well, seeing as the would-be assassin failed, I'm sure we can put this to rest after Chief Lantern has a day or two with him in her interrogation room. Oh, the blob of a mare looked surprised. He survived then? Good. The sooner the chief can ferret out the true culprit, the better, no? Although it will cut into your opportunities for slander. More's the pity. I trotted up, floating the intended murder weapon in front of me. Blackseas looked at it, then back to Raspberry Tart. And I don't suppose you have any idea how a weapon like this could have found its way into Friendship City? Shouldn't you be asking that of Chief Lantern, she suggested. Blackseas nickered. We both know that anything that finds its way into Friendship City behind her back has gone in through you. The pomegranate mare feigned offense. Despite what you claim, Mare, the common room is not a den of smugglers and thieves, and as the voice of the ponies, I would think you should have more faith in them. Her words washed over my ears like slime. Besides, let's be honest, if I wanted to kill you, I would never use a crude method. I'd poison your food. Raspberry Tart got the reaction she was looking for. Blacksea's eyes widened just for a moment before narrowing it again. The overweight mare virtually purred in pleasure. I was beginning to deeply, egregiously dislike Raspberry Tart. They're built like one. Now be a darling and keep me informed, would you, Mare? Raspberry Tart pressured. As head of the Merchants Union, I have a right to know about shenanigans that threaten the peace and safety of all our little ponies. Is that the thing? Of course, Mare Blackseas groused before cutting the connection. The mare's expression was cloudy. Slimy worm of a mare. Now Chief Lantern will have to spare guards for this viper, just to make sure he doesn't have an unpleasantly life-ending accident before he can be questioned. She kicked one of the scattered garden gnomes, and I'm going to be obsessing over where I get my food. Any way we can help, I offered. The mare raised her eyebrows. Can you get a confession? She shook her head. You've already helped me, more than I could ask, but... She thought for a moment. If you can sneak a listening device into her office above the common room, I'm able to catch her saying something about this mess that I can take to the council. I grinned, crossing my pit buck bonded the foreleg in front of me. Sneaky is one of my specialties. My plan was simple. I'll use my stealth bug to turn invisible, slip past Raspberry Tart's guards and defenses. Even if she's in the room, I'll be able to plant the listening device and get out unnoticed. I looked down at the MG Stealth Buck Mark II, set into my pip leg. That's so wrong. Pip leg. I hate it. I hate it. Pip leg. I'd already used it to get in and then out of Tenpony Tower. The device hadn't much time to recharge, but if I moved swiftly and all went well, I would only need about 10 minutes. I don't like the timing of this, Calamity said, flying over me as I pushed my way through Friendship City towards Sparkles. My innards had stopped queasing after Life Bloom had purged me of taint, and over the last few hours my stomach began to rumble, reminding me that I hadn't swallowed anything other than water and Radaway in days. At least half of my weakness was from starvation. Dude, you mean the last night's session? You think the attack on the mayor was something to do with us? I asked. Calamity had echoed my own concerns. From the attack to take place right after we walked into the store was hell of a coincidence, and I was growing unfond of coincidences. Well, no, Calamity admitted. Not us particularly, but between Red Eye and the Enclave and the death of the goddess, there's just too much going down right now for me to believe this is just happening now by chance. He let out his growl of frustration and drooped in defeat, hanging limply from his wings. Hell, for all we know, the Hellhounds might be plotting this. Pony napping and coercing ain't exactly outside their limited vocabulary. So this could be my fault, I moaned, staring at the floor. Add it to the list. Hey now, Calamity perked up, landing in front of me. None of this is your fault, girl. Red Eye has been plotting against the goddess and the Enclave since long before you stepped out of the stable. He argued with confidence. He was working on ways to get into the Ministry of Awesome, and chances are he'd already found one. He did already have griffins to help shut down the security systems. All you did was bump up the clock on the Enclave's arrival. And I reckon that's probably a good old thing, if it throws a bump under Red Eye's radar. Hello. I turned away, but Calamity's grasped my head between his hooves and made me look at him, his wings flapping as he lifted back off the walkway. You're blaming yourself for those dead hellhounds? Maybe even Steel Hooves? My wince betrayed me. Well, you can just stop that nonsense right now, you hear? You got that bomb far away from Red Eye and used it to take out a genocidal threat. What do you think Red Eye would have done with it if you hadn't? He stared into my eyes forcefully. At best, he'd have done the same himself. At worst, he'd have used it the pony population center strong enough to send in his way. He was already threatening Tenpony Tower with it. I realized I was crying. Ah, damn it, little Pip, Calamity said, his expression softening. Come here now, let me get you something to eat. I followed him obediently. The crowd had thinned around Sparkles. The waitress mares were looking thankful for the respite. The music on the radio had been replaced by an authoritative voice. Colluding with the monstrosity in Splendid Valley which called herself the goddess, this goddess was the mother of the horrific alicorns who have been tormenting the equestrian wasteland, endangering the lives of all good ponies like yourself. But the fiendish plot of Red Eye and the goddess made the murders at Alicorn Hooves and Magic pale in comparison. My face slapped into Calamity's backside as Pegasus stopped abruptly, his ears listening. It was their intention to rip you from your homes and from your families, to force you to endure an agonizing, taint-driven transformation that would render you into mindless slaves. Red Eye and the goddess had been working together, not just to take your freedoms or your lives, but to annihilate individuality and to devour your very souls. I stumbled back, shaking my head, then joined Calamity, wondering what the Enclave was up to. If they thought the goddess was so bad, I whispered to my friend, why did they try to ally with her? Naturally, the Grand Pegasus Enclave could not let this stand. We may have been gone for a while, but we have not forgotten our unicorn and earth pony brothers and sisters. And we were not about to allow these abominations to violate and destroy all of you. This is why we detonated a mega spell beneath the home of the goddess, the Mariponi facility in Splendid Valley. My jaw dropped, the world seeming to spin out from under me. The Enclave has claimed credit for the atomic detonation. That is not good. Yeah, that was loud. Who the hell are you? Raspberry Tart spat as she saw me. What the hell are you doing in my loft? How did you get past my guards? I had planted the listening device and had been halfway out the door when the stealth buck died. The tub of pony flesh wobbled around to my face from her place on the lounge bed behind her desk. Gizmo, get in here! I felt the pony move swiftly behind me, blocking my exit. Freaking boy, my boy Gizmo over here. Wait, I said, thinking swiftly. I'm here about the contract on Black Seas. Raspberry Tart raised a mocking eyebrow. What contract? Ah, now I remember you. You were standing in the background when our good mare called me to start slinging accusations. She hefted up one of her slab-like hooves, signaling the stallion behind me to wait. What do you want? The gears in my head spun. The pony who tried to kill the mare was sloppy and stupid, and now the mare trusts me. I gave her my best conspiring smile. I could do the job easily and correctly, but it wouldn't be cheap. Raspberry Tart sighed. Do you really think I'm that stupid? Did you really think you could pull the wool over my eyes that easily? I found myself picturing the attempt to cover her with wool. The rolls of fat, the massive jowls. Not enough sheep in the world, I muttered aloud before I could stop myself. She rolled her eyes. You know, I really don't like being insulted, especially from home invaders. Gizmo, tear the little pony's legs off, would you? Oops, I cantered circling to see Gizmo. My eyes widened as I took in the surgical scars on the mechanical wings. Gizmo was a cyber pony, almost certainly a refugee from Stable 101. Gizmo spun, spreading out his wings to slash at me. I dodged to the side, the blades of those wings whisking through the air inches from my eyes. I couldn't guess if those cybernetic wings would actually allow the Earth pony to fly like a Pegasus, but the feathers were razor sharp. Gizmo somersaulted, his wings lifted and slicing through the air at me as I dove for cover. Yeah, speaking of which, we haven't seen Pyrolite in a while. There at me as I dove for cover, casting about for something to use as a weapon. Gizmo spun again and bucked, turning the chair I had moved behind into a battering ram that knocked me over. My armor took the blow, leaving me winded but unhurt. Did you know I don't use emojis ever, pretty much? I don't really touch emojis. I hardly do. I don't care for emojis, personally. They're whatever. Gizmo, stop playing with your food, Raspberry Tart ordered lazily. Just finish her already. I scrambled from the door. Gizmo jumped up onto a couch and leaped into the air, spreading out his wings. Maybe he couldn't actually fly with them, but they allowed him to glide. He swooped across the room and landed on me with all hooves driving me to the floor. I focused my horn glowing. I was weak and weaponless, but I'd fought my way through Camelot. Damn it. And old Onay, there was no way I was going to fall to some 2-bit crook's augmented mook. That almost sounds like a highly offensive slur. Hopefully it wasn't. Anyway, I felt a hoof pressed down against the back of my head as Gizmo shifted so he could angle a wing at my neck. Then I heard the squelching sound as I telekinetically drove my screwdriver down through his ear and into his brain. Gizmo collapsed off me. Twitching, it took almost a minute to die. Pushing myself back up, I turned towards Raspberry Tart. Alright, let's try that again. Or I could just finish you off myself. I don't think you could, I snarked. I'm not a pie. Oh my god, savage! My horn glowed as I levitated Gizmo's body, pointing one of his razor wings towards her broad throat. Now, one last time, Raspberry Tart took fresh stock of me. You might just be useful after all. Chief Lantern was waiting with the mare when Calamity and I returned to Black Sea Supplies. Did you get all that? I asked eagerly, the moment I trotted through the door. Yes, Black Seas informed me with a heavy tone, her expression cloudier than ever. I drew up short. This was not the demeanor of a mare who just had her rival floated to her on a silver platter. And almost immediately after, I got a call from Raspberry Tart reporting your attempt to barter for my murder. I stammered, what? Wait, I was just trying to get her to say some of that I wasn't actually offering. Chief Lantern waved a hoof. Don't worry, girl. We know that. It would take an amazingly stupid assassin to negotiate a contract against a target she knew was listening through a device she planted herself. Oh, I breathed a sigh of relief. But Raspberry Tart covered her tail, made it look like she was just playing along in order to bring another wannabe assassin to justice. We can't use anything she said to you against her. Calamity bristled. Well, how about her sicking that sour pony on Little Pip? You were invading her home, Chief Lantern told me. Anyway, it doesn't matter now, Mayor Blackseas claimed. We've got bigger problems. Calamity whinnied. What now? Mayor Blackseas moved over to the terminal just after she called out Raspberry Tart and made another call. She pressed a button and an unfamiliar stallion's voice sounded through the speaker. Hello? Who's this? Well, hello to you too, darling. Raspberry Tart's voice slithered. We're all set for your visit. I've cleared the way. When your boys get here, the doors will be open and waiting for them. The package they're looking for doesn't suspect a thing, but we have had one small setback. Those aren't words I like, the stallion informed her coolly. You shouldn't be telling me words I don't like. Mayor Blackseas is still going to be a problem, Raspberry Tart whinnied. The mayor and the security chief exchanged glances as they listened. I could hear a heavy sigh through the speaker. The mayor of that rusty monument you call a city was your responsibility. We're more than ready and capable of doing things the hard way if we meet any resistance. They're negotiating with the Enclave, aren't they? That's who Raspberry Tart's talking to. I guarantee it. Of course, Raspberry Tart said, sounding a little worried now. The stallion neighed. Personally, I would prefer the hard way. Tends not to leave loose ends. If you were legally blind, you would not be able to use a keyboard, most likely. Well, you know, unless it's in Braille. Somehow. Even then. Are you even going to see the screen? Anyway. No, that won't be necessary, darling. How long until we can expect your arrival? There was a snort from the undefined stallion. Our raptors are 80 minutes out. Should give you plenty of time to fix your little problem or flee the city. Oh god, it's over. The Enclave is on their way. Only have 80 minutes. The Enclave was coming for Friendship City. I could just turn myself over to them, I offered meekly. The ponies gathered in the council room with me stared appraisingly. What makes you think you are the one they are after? Dr. Freshwater asked, raising an eyebrow. Well, I grimaced. I had no reason for my assumption other than the timing and the fact that it always seemed to be me. Who else would it be? Ah, hell no. Calamity spat. He turned to the others. Y'all ain't heading over any point to the Enclave. He paused his determination, mounting a hope. Are we? Are ya? I mean, unless you mean, like, legally blind, as in you wear glasses because your eyes are so bad. That's the only realistic way most people would use that sentence. The door opened behind us and Chief Lantern marched in, followed by several security ponies. Raspberry Tart's gone. Looks like she took one of the boats. Good riddance. Mayor Blackseas snickered. We can't worry about her now. Question is, do we fight, evacuate, or both? Oh, that's not good. You shouldn't do that. Do we have enough boats to evacuate every pony? Dr. Freshwater asked, turning to the security chief. The pony shook his head sadly. Maybe we did about 5 years ago, but not anymore. We can get maybe a third of the population packed into the boats we have, slightly less, seeing as Tart took one of them. Dude, Tart took one whole boat for themselves. That's how big they are, okay? Sorry, that's very rude. I apologize. I'm doing it for the story, okay? It's not how I actually feel. Calamity shook his head. If their targets might be on one of them boats, they'll sink them all. Chief Lantern growled, we fight then. That's what we have those harbor guns for. Dr. Freshwater looked at the others. Are we seriously not going to put negotiation on the table? Based on that recording, they only want one pony. How can we put the lives of every pony in this city at risk for just one? She stared at us imploringly. Shouldn't we even ask who they want? And if it's you, Calamity nickered, then what? The doctor frowned. Well, then I tried to get away. Alone. Ugh. A trooper, you will be remembered. Can we try to communicate with them using Raspberry Tart's terminal, I suggested? If I was the Enclave's target, I was more than willing to give myself up to the spare the city. And I was sure Calamity felt the same, but letting the Enclave close in on the city while we waited to find out who they were after felt like a tactical disaster. Not for the first time, I wondered what Steel Hooves would recommend. Oh, poor Steel Hooves. It's so crazy to think. Have recommended. The little pony in my head reminded me, bringing heavy clouds of sorrow. Chief Lantern shook his head. Already tried that. They're not responding. Not a good sign. Sounds to me like they've decided to do this the hard way anyhow. I turned on my Pip-Buck radio, listening to the Enclave's overriding broadcast in my earbloom. I didn't expect to glean any real clue as to what they were up to, but I felt I'd better start keeping appraised of what they were saying for the moment. I was only getting dark, funeral-esque marching anthems. Steel Hooves' funeral had been this morning. The loss of my friend enwrapped my heart in chokingly tight sorrow, and the dour tones of the music were cutting at me like sharp metal wings. Calamity was off assisting Chief Lantern. A quick inspection of the harbor guns had revealed sabotage, apparently part of Raspberry Tart's clearing the way for the Enclave. The damage had been inexpert, and Calamity was certain they could have at least half of the harbor guns working again before the Enclave arrived. But they had to work fast. I followed Dr. Freshwater to the observation room and stared through the anti-radiation window. Greenish-yellow light poured brightly through the glass inside Ditzy Doo. Inside, Ditzy Doo saw me approach the window and waved a wing. 07. A device mounted into the wall clickety-clicked, reading the ambient radiation inside the room. Let's try it again, one of the lab technicians, a cream-coated unicorn with a cornflower blue mane, spoke into the microphone. Focus. The unicorn technician began to walk Ditzy Doo through the mental exercises that young unicorns, fillies, and colts used to practice telekinesis. But Ditzy Doo wasn't a unicorn. She had no magic. What could they be expecting? Foosh! The radiation counter squealed as the light in the room became momentarily blinding. Ditzy Doo tumbled to the floor comically, the burst of energy from her own body knocking her off kilter. Oh, very good, the unicorn technician cheered into the microphone, clapping his hooves together in applause. Keep that up, and you'll be able to purge yourself of this radiation in just a couple days. Inside the chamber, Ditzy Doo pranced joyfully. There we go. It was too quiet. Now, let's go again, the unicorn said with a happy chuckle, but this time try to keep centered so you don't keep knocking yourself over. I smiled to Ditzy Doo and applauded too. Somehow watching her joy made the storm clouds over my own head scatter, if just for a little while. The music in my ear bloom ended and a voice began to speak. I turned away from the glass, listening. I didn't want Ditzy Doo to seek the expressions I expected to play across my face. Greetings, ponies of the Equestrian Wasteland. The Grand Pegasus Enclave embraces our earthbound brothers and sisters. I know many of you are mourning the loss of Kkat, such an iconic symbol of the Equestria that was. But that royal city was destroyed centuries ago, and all that remained was a breeding grounds for monsters and poisons. Sometimes, in order to allow the body to heal, we must cut out the infected flesh. I could feel the scowl forming on my muzzle. I didn't like where this was going. It felt like more than just excusing their attack on the Kkat ruins. Burn away the diseased areas before the infection spreads. I'm concerned. I don't like it's the implication. It's the implication that's scary. I winced as a blast of static cut through the broadcast, nearly making my kick off an air bloom. Good evening, children. DJ Pone 3 voice bursts over the airwaves. It's me again, your old pal DJ Pone 3, coming to you from a secret location somewhere in the Equestrian Wasteland. You didn't think I'd abandon the Equestrian Wasteland just because of the Enclave, did you, children? Now, old DJ Pone 3 ain't got a lot of time before Big Sister Enclave shuts this down. So, let's get right into it, shall we? That's right, it's time for the news. Boom issue? What? Yes, the little pony in my head was bouncing around gleefully. Yes. Now, first up, the truth about what went down in Pony. Now I've got my information from irrefutable sources here, children. I've got to admit, the Enclave is right about one thing. The goddess was as big and bad a threat as they're making her out to be. But that's where the truth stops and the lies begin. Your irrefutable sources, I assumed, meant she'd been watching from the towers. But wait, now, I don't know what the Enclave were out at Pony for, but it sure as hell wasn't to take out the biggest threat the Equestrian Wasteland has ever known. No, that deed was performed by none other than your favorite heroine, the Stable Dweller. My ears were burning, but I was too happy just hearing Hommage's voice, disguised as it was, to mind. And the bomb she used to do it was the very one Red Eye was threatening Tenpony Tower with for weeks. Turns out our heroine talked Red Eye into giving up his big trump card. Oh, irrefutable sources, Homage had washed my memories. So, that cast serious doubt on the whole Red Eye Goddess alliance that Enclave has been spouting off about. They're lying to you, children. Plain and simple. Now, GJ Pone 3 still doesn't know what they're up to, but I can tell you this, the Grand Pegasus Enclave are not your friends. Now keep an ear out, cause I'll be... Another burst of static and DJ Pone 3's voice was gone. I floated it off my earbloom and held it to my breast, basking in the knowledge that Homage was out there, still alive and fighting the good fight. In her own very important way. Attention, citizens of Friendship City. The armor altered... Oh, hold on a second. Let's... You know what? Let's do this one this time. Is that loud enough? Yeah, hopefully. Attention, citizens of Friendship City. The armor-altered voice boomed over the city's public address loudspeakers. We are here to take into custody a Pegasus wanted for crimes against the Grand Pegasus Enclave. His name is Radar. You can recognize him by the following brand on his flank. I stared up at the nearest loudspeaker, a gray box attached to one of the support beams outside Sparkles. I had just made it back to the watering hole and was waiting for Calamity return when the Enclave announcement started. I checked my pit buck's o'clock. The Enclave was early. We had almost 20 more minutes. The mayor had made her own announcement urging ponies to return to their homes less than 10 minutes ago. Mayor Blackseas had called it an exercise, knowing what panic would cost lives, but an exercise didn't have a lot of motivating power. The central chimney wasn't anywhere close to cleared. Our raptors are 80 minutes out, but their armed troops were much faster. Failure to produce this Pegasus and turn him over to the Enclave will be considered an act of collusion. Prompt compliance will be rewarded. Refusal will be met with force. The ponies who had stopped to stare and listen began to panic. Ponies began racing up and down the stairs, pushing into each other. A cobalt-coated buck screamed as he was knocking over the railing, falling 3 stories to slam heavily into the ponies racing about the floor below. Somewhere, the voice of a scared foal cried out. I launched out of my seat, looking around for the source of the voice. With a bang, the doors into the sentry chimney swung open and nightmarishly armored forms of 4 Enclave Pegasi moved in, their scorpion-like tails curling slowly, the antenna-like integrated weapons of their Enclave armor pulsing with colored light. Every pony, stay where you are, one of the Pegasi. We are the Enclave. We are here to bring one pony to justice. Many ponies stopped frozen in their tracks. Others raced for their nearest doors, diving inside. I could hear the foal crying under the thunder of hundreds of frightening whispers. We will be searching the premises, the Pegasus informed the crowd. Do not attempt to hide. Do not attempt to flee. Do not attempt to interfere. Obey, and we will be out of your mains in short order. The Pegasus beside him stepped up as the 2 behind started to fan out, moving through the crowd. The Pegasus called out, any pony with information leading to the swift arrest of the Pegasus radar will be rewarded with a finder's fee of 5,000 bits. To their credit, not a single pony in Friendship City stepped up to take the offer. Fuck you! A mink-coated buck shouted from the spiral stairwell. The Enclave pony looked up at him, the gems on her armor glistened. The ponies around the buck scattered as he was turned into a glittering pile of ash before their eyes. 2 more ponies in the crowd broke into a run, trying to make the door of one of the shops. The glowing bolts of magical energy threaded the crowd, striking down their targets. One of the ponies vaporized, her ashes scattering across the door she had been trying to reach. The other collapsed onto her side, screaming in pain. I repeat, do not attempt to hide. Do not attempt to flee. Do not attempt to interfere. Obey. Celestia? I was trembling. If I had my sniper rifle, all 4 of them would be dead right now. One of the black-clad Pegasi started to move through the patrons of Sparkles. She stepped close to me, walking around behind me as she looked me over. I forced myself to stand there silently, knowing any action could put ponies in danger. She paused. Her visor turned towards the pitbuck melded to my leg. Ever free wins, she whispered in revulsion, moving quickly past. I caught sight of the little wine-colored filly curled up under the foot of the spiral stairs. Everfree wins. Is that supposed to be the byproduct of the burning of the forest? It's like some sort of mutation crud. I caught sight of the little wine-colored filly curled up under the foot of the spiral stairs, shivering and whimpering. My heart went out to her. I started to inch closer, hoping I could comfort her. I made it halfway when she saw me, her eyes opened wide with utter terror. Hell, mare, she screamed, scrambling up and fleeing from the sight of me. No! Phew, no! The foal's momentum had carried the glistening pink ash as she glowed and disintegrated, fanning out across the metal floor. My world shattered apart. I collapsed, my hooves raising to my muzzle as if they could contain my screams. No! Brightwind, you shot a filly! My whole body was shaking, couldn't stop, the tears couldn't stop. Oh goddess, no! Fly steady, soldier. Fly steady? The second Pegasus rounded on the first. You just shot a filly! Hellmare, I'd kill the filly, just as surely as Brightwind had. I killed it by trying to help. The image of her vanishing in a spreading cloud of pinkish glitter kept playing over and over in my mind. I couldn't think of anything else. The first Pegasus Brightwind turned to her accuser. We had our orders, and you will obey them. Now, fly steady. She wasn't running to warn Radar or to hide him. She was just scared. I take it back. I cried out silently into Celestial Moon. I take it back. I didn't try to help. I didn't let her see me. Please bring her back. Please let me take it back. But no amount of regret or pleading but the goddess would make the sparkling ash spiral upwards and be reborn in a flash of light. We can't know that, soldier, Brightwind insisted defensively. Now either shut up and fly steady or get your tail back to the raptor and I'll deal with you later. I didn't sign up for this, the Pegasus said, turning away from Brightwind and flying back the way they came. The thunder of the harbor gun signaled the arrival of the raptors. Uh-oh. Think we gotta escalate again. The thunder of the harbor gun signaled the arrival of the Raptors' Friendship City had not given up their resident Dashite. The Enclave began a full attack at the 69th minute mark. I crawled over to the ashes of the Arbu filly, gathering them together with my telekinesis. That's as far as I'd gotten when Calamity found me, flying and loaded down with all our weapons. Little Pip, what are you doing? He shouted as a lacing blast of crimson magical energy speared through the upper levels of the pony of friendship. Slicing through homes and catwalks, the Pegasus grabbed me, dragging me away as chunks of walkway and scaffolding came raining down. I couldn't find anything to put her in, I said, looking up into the eyes of my friend, showing him the glowing ball of ash wrapped gingerly in my magic. It was so small. It seemed hardly enough to have been a filly. Calamity sat me down in the shelter of sparkles as another blast from one of the raptor's magical energy cannons burnt a hole the size of a chariot through the side of the statue, engulfing warm smiles in. If there were any ponies inside, they were incinerated within seconds by the fuchsia-colored flames. Calamity looked at the ash I was holding, his bewilderment expression shifting to wounded understanding. He looked around and dug an empty Sparkle Cola bottle out of the trash can. Here, little Pip, put her in here. My world had become that ash. With gentle reverence, I magically funneled the filly into the bottle. I glowed a soft off pink. I floated out a bottle cap, screwing it on tight. Oh my god, that's so screwed up! Okay, little Pip, she's taken care of, Calamity was telling me. Now, I need you back. And I know it's hard, and I know it hurts, but we need you here and now. I stared at him, wondering how he could be so close and yet so far away. Do you understand me, little Pip? All around us, ponies were fleeing in terror, trying to get to the exits. They didn't care that there weren't enough boats. The thundering of the harbor guns was thinning out. Calamity slapped me hard across the face with his forehoof. I gasped, lifting a hoof to my cheeks in surprise. I could hear screams and nearby explosions. Ponies' lives account on you, little Pip, Calamity said, drawing my attention to a focus. Y'all gotta pull yourself together. Hurt tomorrow, help today. I slowly nodded, come to my senses like a swim fighter, her way to the ocean's surface. Tucking the bottle... Sorry, I read chat for a second. Tucking the bottle of ash into my saddlebags, I looked at Calamity. What can I do to help? Calamity smiled, looking ready to collapse in relief. They came in with 3 raptors, Radar told us as we reached one of the sniper platforms in the crown of Pony of Friendship. Harbor guns took out one of them. I looked into the sky at the 2 dark warships hovering over Friendship Island. Dozens of Pegasi swarmed about the statue. Chief Lantern and 2 security ponies fired at the attacking Enclave soldiers as quickly as they could find targets, ducking behind low barricades as the Pegasi returned fire. Besides me, Calamity swiftly assembled Spitfire's thunder. The cannons of the left raptor flashed, sending magical energy blast into the statue, tearing through its reinforced copper skin and into the city beyond. The other raptor floated impassively. The second raptor stopped firing after taking out the last of the harbor guns. Radar informed me. We need to take out the last raptor. Shaking his head, he added, really wish I knew why they were so hot to get me. Radar looked at me apologetically. I would have gone out myself, but Freshwater wouldn't let me. Threatened to shoot me if I tried. He looked up. I'd go now, but it doesn't matter anymore. He was right. The Enclave had gone this far. They weren't planning on leaving survivors. An Enclave Pegasus pulling a war wagon dove towards the ponies spilling out of the statue. With a kick of her hoof, a door beneath the wagon snapped open and bombs began to fall. Helpless ponies below were ripped apart, their bodies flung in tatters by detonations of savage energy. Calamity stood up, taking aim. Spitfire's thunder tore at the air, the shot piercing the war wagon. The explosion ripped apart the sky. Good shot, Radar praised gently. Calamity was breathing heavily, looking near tears himself. Not fast enough. Ain't none of this worth me, Radar said. I followed his gaze down to the blasted ground, bloodied with the shredded bodies of innocent ponies. The crushing grief that had overwhelmed my soul was breaking apart, slowly replaced with a building war cry. That was right. This was evil, and I had to stop it. I think you can turn this whole thing around if you can shut down that last raptor, Radar repeated. I'd do it myself, but... He looked down. Not as fast as I used to be. Looked up again, he added. And not a word of that Dr. Freshwater, you hear? It's very good, for sure. I stared at the burning wreckage of the docks. The Enclave had bombed the ships. No pony was getting off the island by boat. The delivery wagon for absolutely everything was scattered in burning fragments across the water and along the sagging, demolished piers. I looked at Ditzy Doo in empathetic horror, but the glowing ghoul merely shrugged, writing, "It's just a wagon," on a chalkboard. As the glowing Pegasus flew out over the devastation, my eyes caught sight of something crimson and green floating in the water. A pony's forehoof, bloody and raged, whatever, I don't know. A memory bubbled to the surface of my brain. "Help me," Ambrosia had rasped. She had been dying inside her armor, pinned by part of the terminal bank, half sunk in the tainted water that was spraying into the room, her body already twisted and malformed. I hadn't been able to reach her. I had barely been quick enough. Spreading Zenith's goop over the ragged stump of my hind leg before I'd bled out. I'd downed every healing potion I had, but the loss of blood had left me so weak and dizzy, I couldn't levitate anything heavier than one of the coffee cups. My blood had left a wet crimson river pouring out from beneath the slab that was holding me down, flowing down into the tainted water, making it pink in the light of my pit buck. "Help me," she had whimpered, her voice filled with torment. "Please, kill me." I'd wanted to, for the love of merciful Celestia, I had wanted to. But shy of trying to beat her to death with a coffee cup, there has been nothing I could do. Then a voice in my head had reminded me that wasn't true. There was one thing I could do. I remembered focusing my magic, lifting up her visor. Her eyes hadn't been in the right places anymore. Only one of them, engorged and strange, had stared out at me, tortured beyond the telling of it. As I stood near the docks, watching that bobbing, severed hoof, I recall thinking, maybe not a sword, but there is enough blood for a dagger. Dang, that sentence hits hard! The memory broke, leaving me shaken. I tried to dredge up what had happened next, but there was only blackness where the memory should have been. It took me less than a minute fluttering about the debris and floating crates before our friendly ghoul returned to me, her eyes looking in different directions, a smile on her muzzle and a stealth buck in her hooves. I shook myself from the morbid reverie and added the stealth buck to the other equipment I had acquisitioned. I shuddered. What had happened to me that I could look at poor Pony's dismembered stump and not want to scream? The equestrian wasteland has poisoned my soul. Above us, the hostile raptor fired a blast at the crown of the Pony of Friendship, engulfing one of the sniper platforms in deadly magic. I pulled Ditzy Doo with me, taking cover against the copper robes of the statue as chunks of burning flesh rained down. Calamity swooped up next to us, dodging falling debris as he dropped 2 sets of Enclave armor at my hooves, scavenged from the bodies of Pegasi taken out by the snipers. 2? I asked him. I can't wear one of those, I pointed out dryly. Horn? No wings? Ditzy Doo jabbed me with the hoof. What? My eyes widened as I literally put 2 and 2 together. Wait, Ditzy, you can't come with us. We're going into a fight. She's lived 200 years, Calamity reminded me. I reckon she can take care of herself. I'm just 2 months out of the stable. Little miss 2 months out of the stable. Ditzy Doo leveled a look at me as explosions shook. Dude, Derpy has become a main character, dude. I freaking love it. It's so adorable. Ditzy Doo leveled a look at me as the explosion shook the island. Calamity hefted up Spitfire's thunder, searching for the war wagon on the bombing run. Okay, fine. You're coming. I acquiesced, locking the stealth buck into my pip leg and locking everything we weren't taking, including Calamity's battle saddle and a nearby crate. Suit up. Ditzy Doo gave me a one-hooped salute and started dressing, hiding her brilliant, ghoulish body completely inside the black, insectoid armor. This is Raptor Pyrocumulus to Raptor Alstratus. Respond immediately. As Calamity and Ditzy Doo, disguised as Enclave soldiers, flew us closer to the Black Maw of the attacking Raptor's hangar, my pip leg had latched onto a new signal, one which wasn't playing the Enclave's continuous public broadcast, and decrypted it. I found myself listening to the Pegasi's inter-warship military frequencies. True. This is Commander Thundershear, the Raptor Pyrocumulus, to Commander Icepeak of the Raptor Alstratus. Why have you stopped firing? The authoritative voice of the commanding mare asked. Oh, wrong person. Oh well. Clearly attempted to communicate with unresponsive second Raptor. You are required to respond. Calamity landed on the Raptor lower flight deck, dropping my invisible self and the sacks I was carrying onto the black metal floor lined with small pulsing guide lights. He trotted up to the hangar door, looking over access terminal. I moved up next to him, Ditzy Doo watching outflank as he attempted to hack into it. As expected, the access terminal had a cloud interface. I could offer him advice, but once again I was denied the chance to do this myself. Commander Thundershear, this is Commander Icepeak. The enemy is defenseless. The battle has been won. Raptor Alstratus is standing down. The second Pegasus mare replied in dignified, reserved voice. A wing is standing by to retrieve the prisoner as soon as Raptor Pyrocumulus disengages. Ditzy Doo gave a little dance in her armor. Apparently she was picking up the transmission too. The rebellion of the second Raptor filled her heart with delight. Almost got it, Calamity grunted. I turned back to the terminal, scanning the lines of code he had brought up. Somewhere in the matrix was the password. Commander Icepeak, those are not your orders. Resume firing. With all due respect, Commander Thundershear, no. After 2 failed tries, we located the correct password. Pragmatism. The heavy blast door sealing the hangar slid open. Inside, the high ceiling was laced with humming lights, identical to those I grew up with in Stable 2, but more sparsely placed, leaving the hangar feeling dark and cold. Large, heavily armored windows along the roof let out the gray twilight of late evening between mounted magical energy turrets. I imagined that the hangar would have been too bright and almost pleasant if those windows were letting in the pure sunlight of midday above the cloud curtain. Enclave technicians and internal soldiers wearing light combat version of Enclave armor moved above busily. Rows of war wagons lined the edges of the hangar. Red fireboxes were mounted at intervals along the walls. Racks of bombs stood between the observation windows and the far back. On the other side, Enclave officers split their attention between watching the hangar and monitoring the war chatter. Damn it, Icebreak! Operation Cauterize is in effect. This is straight from Enclave High Council. The mare commanding the Raptor we had boarded reminded her peer. You have your orders. Now lock your targets and resume firing, or you and your entire crew will be guilty of disaffection. Ditzy Doo and Calamity moved off together, moving like they had a purpose, like they belonged. So long as they didn't do anything suspicious, they should be ignored. Meanwhile, I galloped silently towards the first war wagon. I had only standard stealth bucks worth of time to do this, and I had already spent half of just getting up here inside. Raptor Pyrocumulus, the ponies of Raptor Alstratus regret to inform you that we will not slaughter helpless ground ponies, no matter what our orders say. I reached the first wagon and bucked the switch that opened its bomb door. Floating 2 of the homemade bombs out of the first sack, I wedged them up next to the war wagon's payload. The bombs had been built inside the schematics for the bottle cap mine that Ditzy Doo had given me. It felt like ages ago, but instead of cherry bombs and bottle caps, these lunch boxes carried explosive munitions used in the... oh god, the now destroyed smaller caliber harbor guns. Mayor Black Seas had detonated the supplies. Ditzy Doo helped me make them. A lot of them. I don't know, should I keep this current song running, or should I switch it to one of the other 2 I played earlier? They're all kind of the same. Blah. Commander Thunder Shear sputtered in disbelief as I moved to the next war wagon. By our great leaders, this is mutiny, Icebreak. Think about what you are doing. They'll have your crew for treason. There was no response from Commander Icebreak or the other Raptor. I planted 2 more bombs and moved to a 3rd war wagon. Shadows played across the hangar. I looked up, watching through the ceiling windows as the huge magical energy cannons mounted on the Raptor's top deck swiveled to the left. I could hear the belly-mounted cannons still firing on Friendship City. Raptor Alstratus, this is Raptor Pyrocumulus. The commander barked. You will lock your targets and resume firing, or we will fire on you. Finishing with the 3rd wagon, I dashed to the... yeah, hold on. Let's use this one. I dashed to a first bomb rack. We're sending bombs as quickly as I could. I speared a glance towards Calamity and Ditzy Doo. They had been... oh, this sounds a lot more like airship music. They had been waylaid by an Enclave officer who was demanding something of our speechless ghoul. She can't talk, Calamity was saying. Provocating swiftly. Battle wound to the throat. Besides him, Ditzy Doo nodded eagerly, backing Calamity's story. Look at him, CO. So anything you need to ask her, you can ask me. The Enclave officer, a youthful gray buck with a black mane and a quill for a cutie mark, looked between my 2 disguised friends, insisting, we don't have any soldiers on Raptor Pyrocumulus with that kind of injury. He stared at Calamity suspiciously, and I don't recognize that accent. Where did you say you were from again? Every pony in the hangar froze, turning their gazes upwards as Raptor Pyrocumulus opened fire on her sister. I scrambled to place my makeshift explosion on the 2nd and 3rd bomb rack. I know, I was getting close to where the officer was interrogating my Pegasus friends. Calamity flapped his wings in irritation. Look, he grumbled, we're from the Alstratus command over there's gone disloyal. We got out while we could. Well, that is to be commended, the buck told him, wrenching his eyes from the windows above. But under the circumstances, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to place you both in the rig until the battle is over. The young officer revolved in place, looking to the closest soldiers. Your loyalty will be determined by the tribunal once we are Cloudsdale again. Ah, hail, Calamity hissed as he stepped back, striking down the officer with the sting of his armored tail. Ditzy Doo back-trotted, her body language betrayed shock. Time to go, Calamity shouted as bolts of colored light whizzed throughout the hangar. The soldiers and defenses turrets reacted swiftly. I floated the signal detonator out next to me, dropping the sack of lunchbox explosives at the base of the last bomb rack and galloped. Beams of magical energy struck as Ditzy Doo and Calamity peeled away at their protective, magically powered armor. One of the shots disintegrated a plate of Ditzy's armor, the sickly yellow-green light of her irradiated ghoul body shining out of the hole in the black carapace. I kicked the stealth buck out of my pip leg, giving the turrets and soldiers another target. Thunder rumbled through the hangar from outside as one of the pyrocumulus cannons struck something vital in the Alstratus. Calamity and Ditzy Doo shot out the hangar, several Pegasi in hot pursuit. I felt the first scorching blast lance off my Canterlot police armor, sizzling it. As I reached the landing platform, I wrapped myself in magic, making myself weightless and jumped. Beneath us, the canted form of Raptor Elstratus was bellowing smoke, and its left side thundercloud dispersed, gaping holes glowing in its framework as it dropped slowly out of the sky. One of the pyrocumulus belly cannons swiveled and fired on the ruined warship as it crashed into Friendship Bridge, tearing apart catastrophe. Dude, that is so savage. They were like, no. The ship that was being fired upon aimed their cannons at the enemy. I was like, denied. I triggered the detonator. Behind me, light and heat erupted from the hangar of... Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I might mistake that. Pyrocumulus, a draconic roar building with a cascade of... I mixed up the ships. A blast of fire buffeted me, sending me spinning through the sky. My magic imploding as bomb racks went up like volcanic Armageddon. Magical fire rending the Enclave warship in half. This time, it was Ditzy Doo who caught me. Her Enclave armor was perforated, her helmet gone. Glowing ichor seeped out of numerous painful wounds, but she was grinning, one of her eyes staring at me as she gave a squeaky victory cheer. My heart lifted at her jubilation, but then sank again as I looked out at the burning pony of friendship. The smoke of an incinerated city and murdered ponies blackly bellowing out of the glowing wounds carved by destructive magical energy. And I think that was the end of that battle. We almost made it into Fetlock before the Enclave caught us. It was the dead of night. Thunderclouds above rumbled angrily, still threatening a terrible storm. Actually, I wanted to say I was playing Fallout 4 today. I finally took care of Kellogg, got out of the Fort Hagen place. And unfortunately, when the Pridwin showed up, it was unfortunately during a rad storm in the dark. So it was the most blurry, unfortunate crud, saddest display of the Pridwin's arrival I could have gotten. A bunch of green and blur. Green and yellow and a Pridwin. We had fled Friendship Island after magically snatching up the crate with all our belongings, drawing off as many as the remaining Enclave soldiers as we could. Most of them had abandoned the fight when all of their warships had fallen, but a few had been determined enough to continue mop-up and were engaged by the remaining security ponies. Thanks to our help, a little over a quarter of Friendship City's population still survived. Radar and Chief Lantern were not amongst the living. Oh no! Oh no, that's so sad. Both were killed when the Pyrocumulus took out their sniper platform. Calamity had become withdrawn and laconic since the news. The survivors were still trapped on the island. The Pyrocumulus had destroyed the docks and boats. The crash of the Elstratus had wiped out a section of the bridge. Once we got back to Stable 29, we intended to enlist the aid of Applejack's Rangers. I was certain that the needs of nearly 200 suffering ponies would draw Velvet Remedy out of her shell. But Ditzy Doo was wounded, more than she let out, and as we drew close to the edge of Manhattan, she had begun flagging. So we landed in the ruins of a building which, based on the plate and silverware design still visibly on the badly deteriorated and half-buried sign, had once been a diner. Or from a horseshoe motif running along the top of its one... Dude, is this gonna be Derpy's going to die from her wounds? Is this gonna be she joins the battle of resistance only to end up taking a blow for the team? Oh my god, when the ruins then turned up empty, Calamity had taken Spitfire's Thunder and had flown it into the rubble of the apartment building next door, searching for food, Radaway, and anything else he could find. This left me sitting on the edge of the ruins, staring across the street. Ditzy Doo has discarded the ruined Enclave armor and was splashing playfully in glowing puddle of radio. Oh, never mind, they're gonna be right as rain. Radioactive waste spilled from the back of the wagon, bearing the MAS logo. I don't think she is. She's playing in a radioactive puddle. She'll be fine. There's no... What? The war is over. The battle is over. I couldn't help but smile at her antics, but the glowing ghoul rolled in the waist, the radiation healing her wounds. This wasn't helping her condition, but now that the doctors of Friendship City had taught her how to relieve herself of the buildup quickly, Ditzy Doo was considerably less worried. Catching my eye, she shook herself off, flinging glowing goop all over the wagon and rubble around her, then began to trot back to me, closing her eyes and concentrating as she did so, her body pulsing with a flash of radiation that drove her face planting into a broken asphalt of the street. She stood back up, her eyes reeling in different directions, then giggled at her own clumsiness. As she reached me, she sat down, her chalkboard screaming out, "Absolutely everything does not have boats. Must fix." Oh, that's so cute. Don't worry, I assured her. We'll get those ponies to safety. Ditzy Doo nodded happily and kicked her chalkboard up, dipping her head and expertly catching the neck loop so that it hung again against her fleshy breast. Why the detail? Ditzy Doo nodded happily and kicked her chalkboard up, dipping her head and expertly catching the neck loop so that it hung again against her oh, I already read that. Do not move, the armor-augmented voice cut through the darkness. I immediately cursed myself, bringing up my eyes towards Sparkle. We have you surrounded. There were red lights all over my compass. I looked towards the crate that still held most of my weapons. I had retrieved Little Macintosh, but the zebra rifle and sniper rifle was still inside. I did a quick mental calculation of how many armor-piercing bullets I had left for a favorite gun, how long it would take to reload, and the chances they would kill me, now unarmored, ghoul companion before I could take them down. With a heavy sigh, I responded, "We surrender." Ditzy Doo poked at the blue field of our magical energy cage with her hoof, making an ow sound, something she didn't need a tongue for. I stared through the field at the Enclave soldiers. Oddly quiet. Very quiet. Let's do that. Enclave soldiers milling about outside. A technician Pegasus sat next to the terminal which controlled the energy cages. There were others, but ours was the only one occupied, I noted glumly, that I had a cloud interface. Next to it was an Enclave crate where Little Macintosh wasn't for Little Macintosh. Dude, even in Macintosh's death, he's taking lives, dude. He's still fighting the good fight. My pitbuck was clicking steadily. Being locked in here with Ditzy Doo was bathing me in radiation. I noticed gloomily that the scrapes and bruises I had acquired in Friendship City were all fading away, and that my stomach was beginning to churn unpleasantly, threatening to divest me of my precious lunch. Poke, ow, poke, ow. Honestly, I think this chapter might conclude with Little Pip actually becoming a ghoul, like a full-on ghoul. Maybe not rotted and stuff, not like zombie pony style, but I think she'll be considered a full ghoul by the end of the chapter, maybe. You know, that special quest perk unlock section? Maybe. These ponies aren't from the attack on Friendship City, I observed with a whisper, watching an Enclave officer toss her emptied bottle of Sunrise sarsaparilla into a trash bin that was beginning to overflow. I glimpsed an Enclave antenna array as they marched us to the cages. Why the heck is everything so quiet? There we go. They've been camped here for a while now. I looked at Ditzy Doo. Any guesses as to what they're up to? Ditzy Doo looked at me and shook her head, the last whiffs of her mane flapping about. Then she turned back to the blue crackling wall in front of her. Poke. Ow. A mustard-coated Pegasus in the light Enclave combat armor, identical, I noted, to the armor I had first seen Rainbow Dash showing off to her friends, stopped his walking patrol to lift his visor and glare at Ditzy Doo. Would you cut that out? He growled. Y'all are giving me a headache. Poke. Ow. He barked to me. Can't you make a little monster knock it off? Nope, I replied as I caught movement in the corner of my eye. Gazing out, I saw Calamity moving up on a high ridge of rubble. Our cavalry had arrived. I shifted away and lowered my head, trying to look forlorn and pathetic, burying my face in my hooves to allow myself to serendipitously watch Calamity without alerting any of the ponies keeping an eye on us. Calamity shifted Spitfire's thunder into position, peering down the scope of the Pegasi all around us. I waited, my nerves alive with anticipation. By the way, this is giving me a killer headache, but I have to finish this chapter because that's just how committed I am. And I'm gonna pay for it. Calamity stared at the other Pegasi and did not fire. Calamity, I whispered to myself. Slowly, Calamity pulled back, sliding Spitfire's thunder away, and disappeared. Ditzy Doo dropped her chalkboard next to me. He isn't going to rescue us. Calamity, I thought, feeling apprehensive and a little hurt. What are you doing? Two Pegasi in fearsome onyx armor marched Calamity into the camp at the tips of their viciously sharp tails. The rust-colored Dashite walked in front of them, wings hold high. Oh, damn it, Calamity. Here you go, one of the Pegasi ordered as the technician lowered the field around one of the magical energy cages. She prodded Calamity up onto the platform. He cantered around to stare at her as the blue field washed up between us. Between them. I moved as close to him as our cage would allow. The shielded cage was beginning to feel uncomfortably warm. Calamity? I hissed. What? Calamity just looked at me sadly. Sorry, little Pip. I just couldn't. Even after what they just did? Are you serious? Calamity shifted uncomfortably and nodded, offering no explanation. Dude, wait, Calamity sold them out? But an explanation was forthcoming. Well, look who we have here. Oh, never mind. It was the Pegasus Buck who had growled at Ditzy Doo. He was trotting up looking like a colt who had just gotten his cutie mark. If it ain't my little brony. Oh, God. My little brony. What? His little what now? Hello, Pride, Calamity said sourly. I see they're letting just any pony into the Enclave these days. Hey, the mustard-coated pony hissed. I ain't the traitor here. No, Calamity jabbed. Y'all just washed out 3 times, no less. You know him? I asked. Pride turned to me with a grin. Oh, are y'all friends? He looked from Calamity to us and back in exaggerated astonishment. Well, what do you know? Little Calamity actually managed to make some friends. He rolled his eyes at him. A munchkin mare and a monster. A Pride smirked at us. Y'all should really choose a better friend, the Enclave Buck said nastily. Calamity here's a flying disaster. Leaning close to me just beyond the blue field, Pride nickered with, like he was about to tell me a secret. I stood up glaring through the energy barrier at him. You know why Father named him Calamity? The Buck asked far too loudly. Father? Pride was Calamity's brother? No wonder he wouldn't shoot. I suddenly flashed back at the first argument Velvet Remedy had with us about eating meat. Oh, we can eat meat all right, just don't much like to. Ain't really good for our diet, Calamity had asserted. My brothers used to challenge me to hot dog eating contests, which mostly meant them shoving these disgusting things down my throat. Calamity's brother grinned maliciously, cause he killed our mother coming out. Oh, dang. God dang, dude. I dropped back on my haunches. How big is the Calamity family line? I dropped back on my haunches, the cruelty of Pride's claim knocking the wind from me. The little pony in my head cried as the pain such vicious words must be causing my best friend. But Calamity only looked bored. That again, he drawled, unimpressed. You ain't seen me for 6 years, and in all that time, you ain't come up with anything new. The Orange Man Pegasus shook his head. Back in when I was a flank cult, all y'all would tell me that, I'd bawl for hours. But case you ain't noticed, that was a long time ago, and I ain't a little fool no more. Pride sneered. Really? Strange. I don't see no cutie mark on you, baby brother. Calamity rolled his eyes. And you know why, he spat? The mustard-coated Enclave pony laughed, stomping a hoof on the ground. That I do. He peered into Calamity's cage at his little brother. And I should be thanking you. Branding that mark off your flanks was my rite of passage into the Enclave. I reeled. Calamity's own brother had branded his cutie mark off. Then again, y'all should be thanking me, Pride snarked. Who wants a picture of a hammer on their flank anyway? He shriveled back to Calamity. Ow, that's gotta sting, knowing you abandoned your own kind, became a filthy traitor, when all you had to do was wait a few more years. My loyalty was and has always been to the ponies of Equestria. Calamity glared back. Ain't my fault the Enclave's allegiance is only to itself. If they were if they were what they pretended to be, they'd be down here with me. Still spouting some horse apple, little brother. Pride jabbed. Well, in case y'all missed it, we're here now. So, Pride, Calamity asked tiredly, what's this really about? 'Cause it ain't the Grand Pegasus Enclave swooping to the rescue. I ain't seen a single civilian. This is a military operation through and through. Pride nickered. Haven't y'all been listening to the radio? There's a bastard pony named Red Eye who's messing with shit that ain't his to mess with. You mean the Sing? Calamity quickly corrected himself. Sustainable Pegasus Project? Yup, something he did alerted the high-ups and they started digging into all the shit he's been doing with one of the Hour Towers. None too bright, that Red Eye left all sorts of clues as to where he's been dipping his hooves in. I frowned. Careless wasn't Red Eye's nature. On the other hoof, if the Enclave could override DJ Pwn 3 signal from the Mace BS, Ministry of Arcane Science, I don't know, emergency broadcast system, they could very possibly be able to access things Red Eye reasonably expected to be secure. Or Red Eye could be setting them up somehow. From what I saw in Friendship City, the Enclave was sowing the seeds of their own destruction just being there. Here. And that was before taking into account what my friends and I were going to do to them. And what's that got to do with blasting the royal city off the side of the mountain? Calamity questioned. Why don't y'all just fly over and kill him? What's Operation Cauterize? Pride pulled up short. Where'd you hear that? I have my sources, Calamity said cryptically, holding a hoof to his breast. Pride glared at my friend for a good spell before finally saying, don't do the Enclave no good to just kill the bastard. Even if we take him down, some pony else might step into his hoofprints and try to finish what he started. So what they had to take out Red Eye and Stern? To protect the Enclave and the Pegasi race, we gotta take out Red Eye. Those he may have told, and any pony else who might have known about the Sustainable Pegasus Project, Pride stated firmly, and get rid of the last Earthside hubs of the damn Ministry of Awesome so's no pony else can ever stumble across what Red Eye did. Goddesses. That's why they were after Radar. He'd been in the Maw. There would be Enclave troops hunting us down for the same reason. The gears in my mind started churning. Homage was a target too. Who else? The little pony in my head started piecing together a picture that filled me with dread. The Enclave had tried to wipe Friendship City off the map. Tends not to leave loose ends. The voice I now recognize as Commander Thundershear had said. He didn't want to just murder Radar. He might have told other members of the science team, no, don't shoot, I'm with the science team! And they might have told friends or family. In Thundershear's mind, the whole city was infected and they all had to perish. How many degrees of separation before the Enclave wouldn't consider some pony a threat? How far were they planning to go? Y'all talking about mass murder, Calamity breathed. Ain't no way the Enclave thinks it can be Equestria's savior after this. His eyes narrowed, his gaze sharper than a dagger. But then, they don't ever plan on rejoining Equestria, do they? Pride gave Calamity a pitying look. So what the plan then? Calamity stomped. The civilians gotta see something's up. The Enclave planning to write this off as a big scouting mission? Oh, we thought that maybe it was time for us to descend, but after a prolonged exploration, we realized that just ain't feasible. Best we wait another 200 years. Something like that, Pride said dismissively. We sat in our magical cages in silence as the dawn began to color the horizon. I was supremely tired, but none of us actually felt like sleeping. Calamity had apologized again, several times in fact, until I nearly shouted at him that it was okay. I spent the last 2 hours contemplating how I could levitate the weapons I could get my magic on and use them to wipe out the camp. Right now, while most of it was asleep, I figured I had a good chance of pulling it off, but then we'd still be stuck in these cages. I wiped the sweat from my forehead, trembling slightly. My EFS was warning me that radiation exposure had reached critical levels. I had to try something, but it would have to be something that worked. I wouldn't survive in here long enough to get another chance. Ditzy Doo was huddled on the far corner of the cage, keeping away from me as best she could, but in this small space, it really didn't matter. Calamity was laying down in his cage looking morose. I'm sure pride was wrong, I told my friend through the shields between us. About your father, I mean. He wouldn't have named you after the death of your mother. Calamity's muzzle gave me a wry smile. I could never bring myself to ask, but knowing my father, he probably did. Luna's mercy, that was horrible. I'm sorry, Calamity, but I kinda hate your father right now. Calamity smiled, sitting up. That's okay, Little Pip. He'd be happy to hear it. I winced. Every pony hates my father. That's his job. Most loathed bastard in all the Enclave. Your father is Enclave too? I breathed, my mind suddenly conjuring images of Calamity. His father is a member of the Enclave High Council, possibly even the stallion behind Operation Cauterize. Goddesses, don't put Calamity through that. It's not fair. Yup, Calamity said, a grim little smile playing on his face. Drill Sergeant at Navarro. Welcome to Camp Navarro. So you're the replacement. You're out of uniform, soldier. Where is your power armor? Don't have any. You expect me to believe that, maggot? The truth is, you lost an expensive piece of Army issued equipment. That suit is coming out of your pay, and you will remain in this man's army until you are 510 years old. I absolutely love that so much. He stood up, raising his wings and dripping his voice mockingly. A hammer? Your cutie mark is a fucking hammer? That better be to hammer down your enemies, boy. Or you're the sorriest excuse for a son that I ever did see. Wow. Calamity sat back down, chuckling a little despite himself. Yup, that's my dad. He shook his mane, looking at me. Any surprise all 4 of his bucks ended up in the Enclave? Suddenly, my mother felt like a blessing. So, I said, trying to strike up conversation while I searched for a solution to our predicament, your cutie mark was a hammer. Calamity looked up, yup, and a screwdriver. Your cutie mark was tools. It was not what I had expected. I would have imagined my friend with crosshairs on his flank or a bullseye, although that would hardly be the best thing to be sporting on your flank in the equestrian wasteland. Still, this was Calamity, the pony who delighted in fixing up the sky bandit and making it fly again, who put on armor in a pony wreck, who repaired everything from the firearms to dresses. I thought of him as a sharpshooter, but thinking about it, I realized that even every weapon he used aside from Spitfire's thunder was a weapon he had modified or built himself. He even jury-rigged his Enclave armor to allow him to shoot it without wearing the helmet. Ditzy Doo trotted up, pressing her chalkboard against the shield and making it crackle. Calamity peered, reading. Story? He looked at me, baffled. Cocking my head at Ditzy Doo, I guessed. I think she wants to hear your cutie mark story. With a smile, I added, I think I do too. Cutie marks don't matter, Calamity told us drearily. Come on, I encouraged, clapping my hooves on the floor of the cage. Story, Ditzy Doo joined in. Calamity rolled his eyes and shot me a look. Fine, but y'all gotta share yours too. He tipped his desperado hat, thinking. When I was a little colt, Calamity began, all I wanted to was make my father proud of me, which was nearly impossible even for my big brothers. I was never going to be as big or strong as him, so I practiced shooting. First year I tried the young sharpshooters competition and came in third. Father was so disappointed. I winced. I tried to tell him that I tried my best, but he told me that meant my best was pathetic. I said it wasn't my fault that the old gun he'd given me was all weighted funny and hard to aim. He told me that I should have fixed it better then. Calamity shook his head, digging a hoof at the cell floor. So, that's what I did. I spent all year tinkering with that gun, fixing the sights, building custom muzzle grip, adding weight to the shoulder brace so that it was more balanced. Next year, I placed first. Calamity looked up at tears in his eyes. That was the first time my father ever smiled at me. First time he ever told me I'd done good. He stared into the morning sky. The rising sun was painted the clouds with glorious oranges and pinks and golds. When I got home and took off my competitor's barden, there they were, a hammer and a screwdriver. Best day of my life. He looked down, reaching back a hoof to ruffle his mane. Till I met you and Velvet, of course. I was dead last amongst my peers to get my cutie mark, I told them. All the other colts and fillies who had been in my class had gotten their cutie marks a full 2 years before, and the overmare wanted to put me to work. I explained, normally, in Stable 2, we were assigned the jobs we would have the rest of our lives based on our cutie marks. Without mine, the overmare couldn't assign me, so she drew on some ancient bylaw created by Stable 2's first overmare, which allowed her to have me temporarily apprentice under a variety of positions until something sparked my cutie mark to appear. Mostly she had me try out a number of administrative and technical apprenticeships, since these were the areas most unicorns were assigned to anyway. I looked down at a pit buck grossly infused into the flesh of my leg. We were supposed to get our pit bucks after we got our cutie marks and our job assignment. Biting my lower lip, I thought back, one day while I was apprenticing with the head pit buck technician, a worried couple slipped into the pit buck technician stall. Their son had gone missing. He had run off during his cutie mark party. Somehow, he'd got him so lost in the stable and they couldn't find him. Calamity was staring at me a little bewildered. He remembered how small and enclosed the stables were compared to the outside world. One of the most overlooked capabilities of a pit buck is that it can track tagged objects. Mostly this is used for the auto mapper. My pit buck came loaded with a whole slew of preset location tags. I'm still getting surprised by occasional "You are here" message on my eyes for a sparkle. I smiled a little, remembering how astonished I was that pit buck knew the name of Sweet Apple Acres. Every pit buck has a tag, allowing any pony with the tag code and another pit buck to locate them. My mentor was asleep, which was not uncommon for him, so I hacked into his terminal and downloaded the tag code for the cult's new pit buck into the one of the ones I had been working on. I took the tools that allowed me to unlock it and put the pit buck on. Bringing up my eyes for a sparkle for the first time, kinglet EFS compass to the colt's tag, I slipped through the stable until I found him. The colt had managed to get himself locked in the maintenance shed for the apple orchard. It was after hours and no pony had been around to hear his banging and yelling. I didn't want to get the colt in trouble, so instead of fetching one of the gardener ponies, I picked the lock and got him out myself. I gave a weak grin. Of course, he went and told every pony how I had rescued him, and so I got in trouble for appropriating the pit buck and picking the lock. But at least my mentor covered me for about the hacking, and the overmare wasn't going to press the issue, seeing as my new cutie mark dictated that I would be with him for a good long while. Smiling softly at the memory, I concluded it was the first time I had ever felt I'd done something useful. Something really good. I don't think of us had been expecting Ditzy Doo to join in the storytelling. Hell, we couldn't even tell what the ghoul's cutie mark had been. So both Calamity and I were surprised when the glowing Pegasus dropped her chalkboard at my hooves and prodded me to read. And then prodded me harder, reminding me to read aloud so Calamity could hear. Poke, poke, poke. It took a great many pauses while Ditzy Doo wiped the chalkboard clean and wrote a few more words before her simple story was untold. Uncle owned a moving wagon company. Uncle told me to help. He didn't let me do much carrying, said I was clumsy, but he let me ride around on the wagon and called me his little mascot. I liked it. It was fun to help ponies move into a new home. I like seeing them happy, especially families. Super, especially when they had their fillies or colts my age. Once there was this family who was sad about moving. They had a little filly, a little colt, littler colt, but they were scared of me because my eyes are different, so I made funny faces and got them to laugh at me. Then they were happy. Then I took them back to where Uncle kept all the packing supplies, and I showed them the most fun things in the entire world. Bubble wrap. They loved popping all the bubbles, especially little Pokey. We had fun all day long. Uncle told me that this was when I got my cutie mark, but I was having too much fun to notice. I had almost come up with a plan when Pride snuck past our cage into the terminal, poking it with a hoof. He brought down the walls of magical energy. Excuse me? Wait, Pride snuck past our cages into the terminal, poking it with a hoof. He brought down a magical... Calamity jumped up, leaving on the cage platform. What the hey? Just go, Pride hissed. I whispered to Calamity, pointing at the Enclave crate that little Macintosh was locked away in. Open that, Calamity said, pointing a hoof, and we will. Pride gnashed his teeth in exasperation and went to work on the crate. So, Calamity says the crate hissed open. I floated out little Macintosh and the few other items they had taken from Ditzy Doo and me. We escaped? Something like that. I don't know, but y'all gotta go. Pride looked around nervously. Listen, word just came down. Operation Cauterize has been extended to all Dashites. Next time I see ya, I'll be shooting ya. Understood? Understand? Calamity nodded. Gee, I have the sudden unnatural urge to hug ya, big brony. That's adorable. Ditzy Doo moved up, holding her chalkboard in her teeth with 2 words written across it. New Appaloosa? Pride gave us an ugly look. Red Eye's favorite trade in town? The one that gave I'm the bomb he set off assassinating a member of the High Council? Enclave dispatched a full regiment there at first light. Ditzy Doo stumbled back at the news, the chalkboard dropping from her open muzzle. Dude, wait, that's not good because Zenith and the little kid is there. Ditzy Doo stumbled back at the news, the chalkboard dropping from her open muzzle. Monster, Pride said darkly. I'd be surprised if there's even a crater left by now. Ditzy's eyes were wide, her pupils huge and centered dead ahead. Seeing something beyond Pride, a strangled squeak coming from her throat, she didn't need to speak for me to know that the one thing on her mind, Silverbell. I heard the little lavender filly's voice from 2 days before crying out, Mommy. Ditzy Doo broke into flight, headed for New Appaloosa. Calamity scooped me up, giving chase, diverting only far enough for me to telekinetically scoop out Spitfire's thunder from the rubble where he left it. Honestly, y'all know the scene of, y'all know that scene from the last Star Wars movie? Kind of silly of a film, I gotta admit. But how they had all the Star Destroyers lined up pretty much? That's pretty much how I imagine the invasion began when they were describing it near the start of the chapter. That's what I was thinking was technically going on in my head. Very cool. Rising out of the clouds and crud. Four raptors were positioning themselves over New Appaloosa, squads of black armored Pegasi flying about the sky between them. The town was still standing, but we could see Enclave soldiers swooping the strike-down ponies who were trying to flee the walls. Ditzy Doo pulled up, hovering in the air, a look of dismay etched on her face. Calamity bristled, his eyes narrowing in anger as Pegasus dove at a running mare, opening with rapid-fire bursts of light that turned the fleeing pony to glowing blue dust. Damn it, little pig, we gotta stop this. He was near the breaking point, I could hear it in his voice. Before we could react, Ditzy Doo zoomed forward again, flying right into the heart of the Enclave forces. The Pegasi whipped about as the glowing one shot past them. They started chasing her, but quickly stopped shooting after their fire blasts missed and hit one of the raptors. Calamity set me down and started off after her. I grabbed him by the tail with my teeth. Whoa, that's suicide! I knew we were about to lose Ditzy Doo and probably Zenith and Silverbell. I was damned if I was going to lose Calamity too. We need a plan. Ditzy Doo had stopped at the center of the Enclave forces. They had her surrounded, but they couldn't shoot without risking hitting their own. Several armored Pegasi moved in, their tails curling to strike as soon as they got within range. Foosh! The burst of light and radiation from the glowing Pegasus set the encroaching Enclave Pegasi reeling as Ditzy Doo shot almost straight up into the sky, beating her nearly featherless wings as fast as hard as she could. The Enclave Pegasi gave chase, they started to fire again, but Ditzy Doo repeatedly blasted out radiation, each time blinding her pursuers as it shot her up higher. Two of the raptors swiveled their topside cannons around, scorching the air with magical death, but the huge weapons were too inaccurate to hit their quickly ascending target. After half a dozen missed shots, they left the escaped ghoul to the black armored soldiers chasing her. The glow of Ditzy Doo illuminated a patch of the dark storm clouds as she disappeared into them. Then the glow faded and she was gone. The ponies following her stopped hovering in the air. Several began to turn back. Inside, I know that she would any moment break through the top of the cloud current and see true sunlight for the first time in probably 200 years. The little pony in my head shed a tear. Then reality snapped back. Ditzy Doo had distracted the Enclave. She'd given us a window and we were missing it. Okay, I said quickly to Calamity as I slipped the MG Stealth Buck 2 into my malformed pit leg. Hold on. I'm so out of place here. Gotta escalate. Probably. Okay, I said Calamity quickly. I slipped the MG Stealth Buck 2 into my malformed pit leg. Here's the plan. Whoa, Calamity said, looking up. I turned, following his gaze. A spot of golden green light dropped out of the clouds. I knew what it was, but I still lifted my binoculars to be sure. The first drops of the promised storm began to fall. Ditzy Doo had broken back through the cloud current, shooting past the top tier of the hovering Enclave soldiers before they could react. The ones who had started back down turned and sped in to catch her. Whoosh! The pulse of radioactive light sent the black armored Pegasi spinning out of the control as she shot ahead like a rocket. Oh my god. The other Pegasi were reacting now, chasing after her, firing beams of multicolored light. Most missed, I gasped, as some did not. Whoosh! Ditzy Doo jolted ahead, moving even faster. She was aiming right for the center space between the Enclave's raptors. The raptors were in position now. Their belly cannons were taking aim at New Appaloosa below, preparing to cleanse the town off the face of Equestria. My plan was forgotten as quickly as I had formed it. All I could do was watch. Foosh! Ditzy was beyond the reach of her pursuers now, but not. It appeared beyond the reach of their weapons. One of the Enclave ponies fired twin missiles at the ghoul Pegasus as she streaked by. Seeming nothing more than a glowing blur, the missiles spun, magically locking onto her. They spiraled around each other, leaving a double helix of smoke in their wake as they chased her. Foosh! The missiles were undeterred and gained speed, closing the distance as Ditzy Doo beat her wings, arrowing down at the Enclave, about to destroy her town and kill her daughter. She was moving so fast, the odd air of the equestrian wasteland seemed to be warping around about her. Her body was glowing brighter and brighter as she focused, building up for another burst. The sickly light pouring from her body was rippling in the air, shearing off of her in washes of unearthly, diseased colors. The missiles seemed to reach her at the same time she reached the raptors. Ditzy Doo exploded. Oh, 07. Rest in peace, Derpy. You're a god-dang legend. Footnote, maximum level, quest perk added, touched by Tank 3, exposure to hands further altered your physiology. You are now 20% faster and stronger whenever you're basking in the warm glow of radiation. Your action points regenerate faster, and the faster, the higher the level radiation sickness becomes. Your natural lifespan has increased dramatically. Dude, freaking god dang it. Rest in peace. Everyone's dying now that we're reaching the end game. Everyone is dying. Everyone is freaking dying. So, what I am understanding by the title of this next chapter, it says it all. Sonic Rad Boom. Derpy made a Sonic Rad Boom. What the hell? I gotta admit, my throat is destroyed. That was 30,000 words. That freaking hurt. I have a headache. My ears are popping. It sucks. But I did it. R.I.P. Derpy, dude. And I was sad enough for, it was sad enough when Steel Hooves frickin' died. Though I guess he had more screen time, but still. Dude, Ghoul Derpy was such a frickin' MVP. Ghoul Derpy deserved more love. I'm so sad for Ghoul Derpy. It hurts my heart. Ghoul Derpy was an excellent parent. She did all of this for the youngin'. She did all of it for the child, the town, and everybody she cared about. Oh, and the way she just wrote on a sign because she couldn't talk. Dude. That was a super intense, fun chapter. That was good. That was good. I can only imagine it's gonna get more intense now. Oh, that's sad though. That's rough. So, what did everyone think about that? That great cataclysmic war that we all went through just then. Little review. Honestly, the whole airship thing, freaking awesome. It's exactly like how I predicted it was gonna be with the Pridwin showing up pretty much. It's exactly how I envisioned it. God, that was so cool though. So they were just chilling out in the sky for a while, and then they begun their invasion. Freaking Red Eye. Red Eye and the dang goddesses, dude. What's up? We are just pretty much ending it here, so. Yeah. Oh. Might have missed that part. Well, yeah, that makes sense. That's like from the early chapters. No wonder why I forgot. Very early on. Wow. Anyways, folks. War in Equestria. The frickin' giant armada in the sky is bringing hell to everything we know. And it cannot be good. Anyways, folks. Thank you so much for watching this super traumatic R.I.P. Derpy. R.I.P. Steel Hooves. 07. Live on, my boy. Gonna miss him. Alright, folks. Thank you for stopping by.